Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome and thank you so much for joining us on another magnificent Monday as we get a chance to chat with our friends initially from the Family Resource Center. The program facilitator, Miss Anne-Marie Diaz, will join us. There's a webinar coming up on Wednesday talking about managing stress. We'll share with you 1 p.m. Mr. Loxley Banks, Mr. Sydney Banks, and from Northside, Mr. Paulie Banks will join us. Hey, we talk about Memorial Day. Maybe it's be mindful of, what I say, for whom the bell tolls. Well, we enjoy our freedoms because of that. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Talk Today is brought to you by Fidelity Bank. For all your banking needs, visit fidelitygroup.com. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Also brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile. Saving lives today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And thanks again publicly to Ms. Susan for having to put up with us and making the technology work. So a special public good afternoon and a Monday welcome to Ms. Susan. As we go to our phones and welcome Ms. Anne-Marie Diaz joining us remotely, a program facilitator at the Family Resource Center. Ms. Anne-Marie, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Good to talk to you.
Always a pleasure. Always enjoy engaging with you guys, learning about the things you're doing, watching how you increasingly leverage the technology. Now, I know you have a series of sort of webinars where we all can enter and engage and not be limited by the physical space of the classroom anymore. So thank you so much for doing it. How's it been going so far?
Yeah, we've been getting a great turnout from parents and a great response coming back where parents are saying that they're finding the webinars quite useful and the information is impacting their families positively. And so we're so happy to be getting that feedback and to continue to provide this service on a weekly basis on Wednesdays at 4:30.
Well, I'm glad to hear because I think it's important that as we strengthen our families, we individual units are there, but it's collectively it makes the community and by the definition, the entire society that much healthier, better, stronger, stable, secure, safer, all the good things that we want. So glad that you have the resources.
All
right.
Absolutely. It's a real positive ripple effect.
It is indeed, and especially in this time. And I think that maybe of all the bad, horrible things that we hear in the news and sometimes being spotted from the political pundits and the like, there's some very positives that can come and strengthening our families. It can't be a bad thing. It has to be at the top of the list as being one of the good things that come out of this. Now, this particular one, I'm told the topic is managing stress. Now, that seems to be, tell me about it. Can you actually manage stress?
You can, believe it or not, and not all stress is negative, believe it or not, but we are experiencing high levels of it right now. Obviously, because of the circumstances that we're living in, there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unpredictability, and especially when it comes to our families, our children and parents, their lives and their routines have completely been flipped. and the expectations, the pressures put on them have really increased. And so it is something that's really important to address so that our parents are utilizing healthy coping strategies and are also role modeling and teaching those strategies to their children as well. And so it is something that definitely was, when we did our survey, that parents actually noted down as something they really wanted to hear more about.
Indeed. And I'm glad you shared that, not all stress is necessarily negative, but with great respect, there are some of us who believe, we strive better under stressful environments. We perform better. I eat stress for breakfast, we say, that sort of thing. And that in itself I should ask, could that in and of itself potentially be a harmful sort of approach just because we think that we work better on the tight deadlines and we're stressed out then and there because that's our motivator? Could that then have long-term negative consequences for us?
Well, that's true. I think our relationship with stress and the antidote to stress is really resilience, the way in which we bounce back. And so if we do have a very negative perspective of different forms of stress, then yes, our relationship, that means probably that's going to increase on a daily basis, the amount of stress that we have. But there are, getting deadlines, that does create stress, but that can be positive in ensuring that we get things done. But even little things throughout our lives, such as the first day of school, that was stressful, but it represented development and growth in our lives. And when we start a new job, that could be potentially stressful, but that's positive because that can represent development and growth in our lives as well. But right now, COVID-19 is echoing a lot of toxic stress. We're creating that. And so that's what's important to address right now.
I think you're right, and I'm glad that you have these series, but I think this one coming up in particular may help all of us because we may not necessarily understand why that thing at home isn't, how it used to be. We're coming into the environment, bringing this thing, and it's affecting our interaction, even with probably our goldfish. The pets in our families are probably feeling that thing. And if it's stress, how do we manage it? So I'm very, very appreciative. And for everybody, who's in the household, working from home, who's going to school, we're there much for more extended periods. When we come back from this short break, could we ask you again to remind us, when it is, where it's going to be, how to register, what we need to do? Can we eat chocolate in class while you're taking notes? Can we talk about all those things?
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to pause and take a short break. Ms. Anne-Marie Diaz, the program facilitator at the Family Resource Center, part of the Department of Counseling Services. There is a webinar coming up. We want to tell you about it, how to register and be a part of it. So please, stay tuned. Join us after the break. You can call if you have a question or a comment as well. We'll tell you about those numbers, but just in case, 949-8037, or you can call us toll free at 1-800-534-8255.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts parts, Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
International Lighting, Ed's Plaza, North Soundway is now open for curbside service and delivery Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition to light fixtures, ceiling fans, rugs, sheet sets, and household items, International Lighting now has a selection of 3-ply masks starting from $1 CI, as well as non-disposable masks, rubbing alcohol, and gloves for sale. For curbside service and delivery, please call 945-7121, 916-8211, 916-3553 or 949-5141. Stay safe, Cayman.
The Ministry of Tourism is establishing a needs registry for displaced Caymanian tourism employees. This information will be used for review of necessary support for the tourism sector. Caymanian tourism employees are asked to complete the online registration form available at tourismregistration.ourcayman.ky. Sign up today to be included.
This is a public service announcement from your Radio Cayman, your community radio station. Here are some coronavirus prevention tips.
Home isolation means staying indoors and completely avoiding contact with other people. You need to do this if you have symptoms of COVID-19. If you are practicing home isolation, you should stay in a well-ventilated room with a window to outside that can be opened separate from other people in your home. Keep the door closed and use a separate bathroom from the rest of the household, if available. If you have to share these facilities, regular sterilization will be required. Consider drawing up a bathroom schedule for washing or bathing and have the isolated person using the facilities last.
For the latest updates and information, please visit hsa.ky/public-health/coronavirus or gov.ky/coronavirus.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And a special thanks to Ms. Anne-Marie Diaz, the program facilitator over at the Family Resource Center. Again, thank you for joining us, Ms. Anne-Marie.
Thank you for having me, Sterling.
Always a pleasure. Honestly and sincerely, it's always a pleasure. Now, the webinar that is coming up, you said to us, is on this Wednesday. It's on managing stress. But tell us more about it. I mean, how do we register, for instance?
Sure. So this Wednesday at 4:30, we're going to have our live parenting webinar focusing on managing stress. And there's two ways to access the live webinar. You can go on to Facebook and search for Family Resource Center, and it will be on there live. That might be the easiest way to access it. However, not everyone has access to Facebook and things like that. So we are also offering it via Zoom. That's something that requires you to download it. You yourself don't need to have a webcam, but you'll be able to see us. And that link can be found either on our Facebook page, or you can also email us at frc@gov.ky and request the registration link. And it's something very simple. You're just putting your name and your contact details, and you'll have immediate access if you're registering at around 4:30 on Wednesday.
Okay, perfect. And what about costs? I mean, sometimes these things, they're relatively inexpensive. Sometimes they're free. Sometimes, they're exorbitant. In this case, what's the cost?
All our services, as a part of Department of Counseling Services, are always free to the public, to our community. We have a responsibility to service our community and our families and to ensure that they're receiving or having access to valuable information that is going to potentially improve their lives and their relationships. So absolutely all our services are free of charge, including our webinars.
Okay, excellent. And I appreciate you, having that continued commitment, because sometimes this slightest little barrier can inhibit and limit people's ability to access well-needed services. So free of charge to those who want to participate. Um, in that instance, though, how is I know you said it's zero Zoom or you just watch it, but how will it be sort of conducted? You just sit there and listen to the presentations? Is it interactive? How does it work?
Right. Because we typically do have a large audience, there won't be loads of interactivity. So yes, it will be almost like watching a video. It'll be myself and a guest speaker. I've invited Siobhan Nixon from the Wellness Center to join us. She's an associate psychologist and the corporate wellness presenter over at the Wellness Center. And so you'll be viewing us providing a presentation, which we've made sure that is simplified and easy to follow. If in the event someone cannot join us live at 4:30 on Wednesday, the pre-recorded presentation will be up on our Family Resource Center website, which is frc.gov.ky, under our parenting resources. So that is another way you can also access.
Okay, so it's this Wednesday, 4:30 live if you want, or you can watch it later, or do both. It's a resource that you can go back to from time to time. How long is it? An hour? 5 hours? I mean, how long is this particular presentation?
Well, seeing as our audience are parents, we understand their time is valuable. We put it at 4:30 because that was the time that was most requested for. Typically, school time is over with, and they're having a bit more downtime at that time. And so it should be a maximum of an hour. But let us know if we go over.
Well, that's good. I mean, a short, informative session, an hour, commitment to our families, our lifetime. So an hour investment is certainly doable. We can still go out and afterwards and exercise or catch the sunset later on. So it's still early enough to prepare supper. Still time left in the day. All right. Now, what about what do we bring to the table? Literally, I mean, do we need particular materials? Do we need to do any sort of prerequisites, pre-reading? Is there anything that was required beforehand?
Nothing to do beforehand. I would recommend, if you do find it useful to write things down, it would be good to have some pen and paper with you to jot down some of the most useful points. We will be sharing, really explaining really what stress is, understanding the signs of it, and understanding your own risks. There are some checklists that we're going to provide, so that can be helpful to jot those down, so that your own awareness of these things are increasing. And then we'll also be taking you through coping strategies, so you might enjoy a certain type of coping strategy and think, oh yeah, I want to really try that. I want to teach that to my child. One might resonate better with you, so it'll be good if you do have pen and paper to write them down. But again, these resources will be available on our website, and you can always reach out to us to talk with one of our professionals as well if you want to actually receive coaching and receive support individually. We can do that. So there's a number of ways we can provide support right now.
No, certainly appreciate it, man. And I do recognize that, like many of us, our days and our work schedules have only become more hectic. And I can only imagine at the Family Resource Center, you and your colleagues are probably busier than ever with everything. So thank you for that. This is another opportunity, I guess, for the wider community. And because it's, done in this virtual realm, it's not limited by that physical classroom or stadium that can only hold 10 or 1,000. We can probably, if the bandwidth allows, have many at the same time watching if they choose, huh?
Absolutely, yes. We really had to adapt our services, all of which are called telehealth services. So we're supporting clients via phone, via Zoom, and our weekly parenting webinars are our most successful and I think beneficial right now for the wider community. So we're very happy to be supporting our families still.
Right. And parents can do it, they can just step away from their desk or wherever it is that they're most comfortable wearing whatever it is that they wish and just focus in. Pen, paper, like in hand to jot down that particular note that you want to recall later. With that though, can you give us sort of maybe a teaser or the like of um, just I always like to get as much information as I can because you never know, maybe that thing that pushes you to just be that much more motivated to engage, so share.
Absolutely. So a little taster is, so I'll start off by saying knowing the signs of stress, because awareness of it is the first point or most important point before actually fighting back against it, right? And so there, we will provide a little checklist to go through, but there's 3 categories you can kind of pinpoint, and that's body, thought, and action. So our body,
thought, action.
So each one of those things will be good indicators for us to know if we're really even experiencing stress, because sometimes we're so sucked into it that we don't even know that we're experiencing it, right? Or it just becomes normalcy. So actually doing even a body scan, going through your body, are you feeling tension in your shoulders? Is your heart rate constantly going up and down? Are you feeling nauseous? Are you getting headaches? Those are indicators that your body is responding to stress, right? Thoughts, are you having constant unhelpful thoughts? You're thinking a lot of overthinking or a lot of negative thoughts? That's an indicator that you're experiencing stress. And then thirdly, your actions. Are you snapping more at your family? Are you feeling a lot more irritable, and maybe turning more to things like alcohol, maybe drinking more? Again, that's an indicator that you're under stress. But just as those are the ways to identify if you're experiencing stress, those can be ways of actually fighting back against stress. You can also use your body in positive ways to manage stress. So that might be exercising, eating well, getting sleep, right? Those kinds of things. Just even simple things as taking deep breaths, taking a physical break from the computer or whatever you're using to work from. And thoughts, you can replace or catch those negative thoughts that are really not helping you or helping you cope right now and are actually feeding your stress, feeding your anxiety, or feeding your anger. And you can start to replace them with more helpful thoughts that you believe and that are going to get you through the day. So, and that could even be something such as, wow, this is really hard, but I can do it. That validates that, yes, things are difficult right now, but it also empowers you to keep going. So thoughts such as that is another way to fight against the stress. And then our action. Yeah. And what we do, so that might be if we notice, oh boy, we've been drinking a bit too much, and that's been our unhealthy coping strategy. Try doing something different. When you feel like drinking, it could be going out for a walk instead, using other actions to cope with your stress.
I'm glad you shared that because I think as you're referencing, stress manifests itself in different ways in different people. So being aware of that, we may be eating more, eating less, or eating more of certain things, and not even understanding, that bowl of sweet treats that we have on our desk for our clients. All of a sudden now, we're consuming them and refilling them, and not even realize that, we've gone through 50 pounds of it, so to speak.
Yeah, true. Yeah, our eating patterns, that's a good indicator, especially if you're noticing a big change. And that could be not necessarily stress. It could even just be boredom. But typically it is going to indicate a way of coping with the current circumstances. So, yeah, maybe even making it fun with the family. Everyone's going to make the fun family menu for the week. We're going to have Taco Tuesday, and we're going to use turkey meat and make it really nice and healthy. Or we're going to, make a salad on Wednesday, and that way it includes the entire family as well, and it can it is, yes, a parent's responsibility to manage their own stress and to support their children through this difficult time, but it can be really helpful when the entire family are involved in the activities that are potentially making things easier.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you shared it, perhaps I'll ask and you guide me. The parent, for argument's sake, maybe because very understandably, the work environment, the demands, the whole, this whole environment that we're in as the scenario plays out, maybe unconsciously, bringing that stress into the home, and then the children are feeling something, and in that in itself could cause in them to be impacted in a negative way, even if they're very young. So this would help us to help ourselves, but also, continue to provide for our families in a better way. So I'm glad that you're offering this up and having us, be able to join. Now we have a short break to take, Miss Anne-Marie. You're more than welcome to rejoin us after the break to recap if you want. Is that okay, or you have to?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
I would certainly welcome it because I think this is important for our families to be able to understand that we're all impacted. Sometimes, some more so than others, or some more so at that particular time than others. So when we come back, maybe tell us again more about it, remind us, and maybe we can sort of, talk to some extent to how individuals themselves, may be at particularly more predisposed, if that's the case, to higher levels of stress. Who knows what we'll ask of you. All right, we're going to pause and take a short break. When we come back, more talk today.
Christian Enlightenment Center is now open for deliveries. Call and order your favorite inspirational books, journals, Bibles, Bible cases, church supplies, stationery, and many other unique items. Christian Enlightenment Center, your complete Christian bookstore and more. To place your order for delivery, text or WhatsApp 923-8050 or email us at ceccenter@candw.ky. Check out our website at christianenlightenmentcenter.com. Browse items on your Facebook page by clicking Shop to view all our collections. Opening hours 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday to Saturday.
A.L. Thompson's has reopened to the public. Shop for all your home and garden needs at A.L. Thompson's in any of 3 ways that suit you. You can come to the store and shop in person. You can shop online for curbside pickup. And you can shop online for delivery to your home. A.L. Thompson's wants to make your shopping easy, efficient, and safe. We offer goods that you need now for your home and yard. For shopping details and procedures, please visit althompson.com.
Hi, my name is Neraya LeBlanc. I am the minister and evangelist to the West Bay Church of Christ on 24 Batabano Road. I would love to take this opportunity to invite you to experience God's family at West Bay for yourself. We are a caring congregation that strongly believes in reaching out beyond ourselves to spread the gospel of Christ. We also take great pleasure in ministering to the needs of our people in our community. As God's called out kingdom people, we are in the business of transforming lives for the Master's use. For more information, you can visit our website at westbaycichurchofchrist.org or call us at 946-9294 or 917-1809.
Declaring the word of the Lord.
Cayman Islands Church of Christ presents Word of the Lord.
Word of the Lord, heard Sundays at 6:30 p.m. on Radio Cayman.
For nearly 20 years, Kingsport Center has been the heart of the Cayman fitness and wellness community. In order to ensure the welfare of all, we are temporarily closed until further notified by the Cayman Islands government that it is safe to reopen. During these trying times, we encourage everyone to maintain a healthy lifestyle, mind, body, and soul. We look forward to continuing providing you with world-class service in the very near future. Remain strong and continue to show the world the power of Cayman unity. Kingsport Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Beach access is now allowed using the last named protocols, but strictly for exercise, including swimming. Persons can exercise for up to 2 hours each day between 5:15 a.m. and 7 p.m. daily. Shoreline fishing and fishing by boat are allowed, but limited to 2 persons per boat. Strata pools can be used for swimming, and tennis courts can also be used, but are limited to members of a single household or a maximum of 2 persons with social distancing maintained. All residents must wear face masks or other face coverings while taking public transportation, inside buildings, or other public places. For more information and to view the new regulations in full, go to www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal, and never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us. And it truly is a pleasure to continue to partner with our various government agencies, and in particular today to talk to our friends at the Family Resource Center. We have the program facilitator, Ms. Anne Maria Diaz, joining us. Hey, thanks again, not just for joining us today, but for the various programming that you do, and for sharing with our wider community how easy it is to access. So it's a wonderful time that we're working together.
Thank you for having me, Sterling. It's always a pleasure.
All right. Certainly is for us here at Radio Cayman. Ms. Amri, from that perspective, as we were just going to the break, and we were kind of asking, maybe teasing out here somewhat, but we are cognizant of the time. So any other things you want to share with us in particular, and maybe from the perspective of that individual for whom, as we shared at the outset, for whom life for them, the norm is, well, they worry, they're just worriers. Worry. For them, they're always stressed and taxed and sort of, tested in their minds with everything. So they don't know anything else other than, sort of the high stakes, as it were. Is that an individual just living in a constant state of stress, or is that their norm?
Sure. I think, what I do want to mention is that there are those of us that are at greater risk of experiencing stress right now, and certainly our parents and our children are among those. In addition to older persons and frontliners and persons helping with the response to COVID-19, right? And I think our parents right now, there is a lot of pressure on them. They're having to still, in some cases, perform their job remotely. They're having to parent, and they're having to provide crisis schooling, and that's many hats, too many hats to wear. And so with that pressure, I think parents are also putting pressure on themselves. And so what I would say is that it's so important for parents to give themselves grace and to give their children grace, because it's such a hard time, and to know that this is going to be hard and their children's behaviors might, have increased. Those challenging behaviors might have increased. But if we expect those, we accept those, and we give ourselves grace, we can respond with empathy to our children. We'll talk about a lot of useful things on our webinar on Wednesday at 4:30. And so I do recommend, if you are experiencing a lot of stress and having difficulty coping, this is going to be a great time to get back on track or to learn new ways of coping with things right now.
And as I listen to recognizing that you shared that they are this level of stress for many, and probably more so for some, and probably not even appreciative of how it has impacted them thus far. We have a quick WhatsApp message from someone who is asking, can stress, if I'm reading this correctly, maybe I should do my glasses, can stress now lead to longer term health concerns and consequences?
At any point in life, stress can lead to that. And if you had pre-existing either physical health or mental health conditions, it can increase those as well. Yeah. So certainly, stress can increase that, but it doesn't mean. The good news is, resilience is the antidote to stress, and resilience is a skill that can be learned, that can be developed. So it's not to say that you're going to just continue to experience stress and this is it, that I just have to go through this journey and I'm going to end up with health complications. Absolutely not. There are ways to support yourself or others that are experiencing that. And so there is absolute hope. And so please, join our webinar or reach out to any counseling services if you do need further intervention and support.
If you would, I do, as I share, recognize the time, but end this WhatsApp, and I just want to maybe make some inference, if I could, uh, based on a conversation I had way back when with an old individual that talked about, enjoying the days back when you get a letter literally in the mail, you read the letter, there were instructions, you compose your response, you posted it, and then 2 weeks later it probably would arrive. So you had time to sort of think about what you wanted, as opposed to now an email or instant message comes in and you almost instantaneously will respond. With that, uh, this comment talks about does breathing, literally stepping away and taking deep breaths, does that actually help? I'm not saying this person is trying to be, in a which way other than genuinely asking a question. So deep breaths, do that actually happen to help reduce your level of anxiety and get your heart rate down and so on?
Absolutely. When we are performing deep breaths, where usually our mind is focusing on them, so we're not typically thinking about the negative thoughts. We're focusing on the way we're bringing the breath into our body and releasing it. So it quiets any thoughts we might be having. And further, the oxygen coming into our body, into our blood, into our brain is actually cooling our body down, which is lowering the intensity of whatever the emotion is that we're feeling, whether it's anger, anxiety, anything like that. Oxygen and water are our best friends. So deep breathing and drinking water, washing our face, those are things we can instantly do in the moment to calm our body down and the way we're responding to stress.
Excellent. Because as you shared it, I'm recalling a conversation not long ago we had on here with, Miss Natalie Baldwin and Miss Maribel Dacuna, talking about the same thing, and this way using sort of yoga as a part of a deep breathing. So we have these resources if we would only, utilize them and get the training, and perhaps in this case take part in your webinar. So this coming Wednesday, 4:30.
Absolutely, 4:30 Wednesday, and you can either watch us live on Facebook at the Family Resource Center page, or you can download a registration link, which is also there at the top of our Facebook page, or you can email frc@gov.ky to request that link.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Anne-Marie, and I trust that this will be another, wonderful session. Have an excellent, safe, productive, but also enjoyable relaxing week. Maybe we can do both, right?
Oh, that sounds great. I hope I do, and I hope you do too. Thank you.
Amen. Blessings to you. Well, listen to our listeners, if we find a way to manage and cope and to de-stress and to make it productive, well, here's one opportunity. So this Thursday, coming Wednesday, 4:30, the Family Resource Center's webinar. All right, we're going to pause. We're going to take a break at the news. When we come back, Mr. Loxley Banks, Mr. Paulie Banks over in Northside, and from the Camelback, Mr. Sydney Banks. So we got West Bay, Northside, and Camelback. So kind of like a triangle covering the entire country as we talk about, the importance of preserving our freedoms, respecting and recognizing those who've given the ultimate sacrifice so we can enjoy that democracy that we have. Please join us after the break.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have here on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The Cayman Islands Fire Service and Department of Environmental Health continue to work to tackle a small but protracted incident today at the Georgetown landfill site. Chief Fire Officer Paul Walker explains that this incident illustrates another reason why landfill fires can be challenging to resolve. He said thanks to DEH colleagues, an enormous amount of waste material has been excavated to enable their fire officers to douse the deep-seated affected area. The operational plan for the day continues to be excavating, turning over and damping down. No smoke or flames are visible at this time. Thermal camera imaging and visible signs of steam from the affected area indicate the incident is ongoing. A further update from the scene will be provided tomorrow morning. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Americans have flocked to beaches and lakes for Memorial Day weekend, often flouting restrictions imposed to tackle the coronavirus outbreak. In Florida, state police dispersed an unauthorized gathering of hundreds of people in Daytona Beach on Saturday. In Missouri, bars at the Lake of the Ozarks were packed with revelers who violated social distancing rules. And New Zealand's Prime Minister stayed calm during an earthquake on live TV this morning. She interrupted AM show presenter Ryan Bridge to tell him there was an earthquake happening, looking briefly troubled before smiling and carrying on with the interview. The 5.6 magnitude earthquake struck about 90 kilometers north of the capital, Wellington, on Sunday. It was felt across the country, but there were no reports of damage or injuries. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Home, which should be a haven, can even be less of a safe space during curfew if someone is experiencing child abuse. If you or anyone you know is being abused, help is nearby. For emergencies, call 911. They will redirect your call to the relevant agencies. For general guidelines and inquiries, call the Multi-Agency Safeguarding Hub, MASH, at 1-800-534-2273 or 945-0545. Alternatively, email mash@gov.ky.
International Lighting, Eds Plaza, North Soundway is now open for curbside service and delivery Monday to Saturday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. In addition to light fixtures, ceiling fans, rugs, sheet sets, and household items, International Lighting now has a selection of 3-ply masks starting from $1 CI, as well as non-disposable masks, rubbing alcohol, and gloves for sale. For curbside service and delivery, please call 945-7121, 916-8211, 916-3553 or 949-5141. Stay safe, Cayman.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Obey the laws and wear the gauze. Protect your jaws from septic paws. Stay clean, Cayman, with hand sanitizer from $3.25, 10 surgical masks for $9.99, and 2 packs of KN95 masks for $6.99. Wholesale pricing available at all 5 Liquor for Less locations: Shedden Road, North Church Street, Savannah, Northside, and the McClendon Drive Airport location. Don't miss the incredible lockdown price markdown and manager specials exclusively at Liquor for Less. Hundreds of fine, starting from cases of ice cold below wholesale prices and save $9 off liters. Prices so low we can't say it on the radio. Liquor for Less enforces the wearing of masks and social distancing while in store and encourage other preventative measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19, such as consistent hand washing and only leaving home for essential purposes.
The RCIPS, National Drug Council, and Radio Cayman are reminding you to stay home, refrain from social gatherings, and having parties during soft and hard curfew. Do your part. Limit alcohol consumption or stay sober. Do not undermine your immune system and health by misusing alcohol or any other substance. Remember, we are all in this together. Stay safe, stay home, stay alive, Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us, and a very, very special thanks to all those who've gone before, for whom the bell tolls, who've allowed us to enjoy the freedoms that we, and can so freely move about our communities. To Mr. Loxley Banks for joining us, and equally, to Mr. Paul Ebanks, the US, and the UK in partnership once again. So good afternoon, Mr. Loxley. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Well, good afternoon, Susan and Dwayne.
Oh man, I'm very. I say this especially whenever we have you or Mr. Paul in particular, whether it's Andrew or others join us, to realize that even in Cayman, and for those who understand our history, the war efforts, the service and the sacrifice, and I'm glad that you remind us. And as we talk about it today, perhaps first I'll just say, the Royal Commandos, Mr. Paul, how are you, sir?
I'm good, Sterling, and it's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Well, it's an honor, so I honestly, each time I come on, and I keep saying it, I won't allow my emotions to come through. I'll be stoic. I'll be, I'll professional. But when I stop to think, and I would ask you, because of who you are individually, what you represent, the service and sacrifice that you, have sort of endured throughout, to keep me in check. But as I look at where we are in the world today, in the Western world, the democracies that we have, but in particular in Cayman, that freedoms, of movement, of speech, of being able to challenge and champion, and to be respectful equally of what is necessary. But we have to question, is it that we're at maybe another time in our history, and we could easily find ourselves just like Hitler at one point, that nice smiling guy who seemed to charm a nation and then put the world in turmoil? Could it be on our doorsteps once again? Mr. Loxley?
Yeah, well, I think we're going through a very fine time right now. The whole world is, and you can. I'm sure folks listening know that the sabers are being rattled. They're being rattled all over the place, and we have to remember that what we enjoy here today, was paid for by a lot of people, and just to kind of make the distinction here, in Cayman and in the British Commonwealth, we celebrate our war heroes, those who served and those who made the supreme sacrifice on what's called Remembrance Day. Now, in the U.S., they also observe Remembrance Day, but Memorial Day, which is today, they specifically memorialize those who, gave their life, those who laid it all down and sacrificed for the defense of freedom and democracy. And in that light, I think, we are well in remembering Caymanians who actually served in the U.S. forces, who actually laid down their life for the freedoms that we enjoy, and in the Commonwealth, in the British forces. And there were a number of them. Now, we do not have a concise list of all of those folks who actually laid down their life, made the supreme sacrifice for the defense of freedom and democracy. That is Caymanians. But we have I think a good representation of what of who they were, and we think that somewhere along the line that we will eventually come up with a more concise list of all of those who made the supreme sacrifice, and and we think that during the war, all the various conflicts, that there could be upwards of 75 or 100 Caymanians who lost, who gave their lives. And when you put that in the context of maybe what the population was at that time, because all of those who actually made the supreme sacrifice, I would think it goes back probably at least I would say at least 40, 50 years. That is beyond that, and before that. So I think it's quite fitting that we remember them on this day. And if you'd like, and hopefully that Sydney can join us from Cayman Brac, because we say the Cayman Island, we say Cayman, but that's the Cayman Island because there were a number from Cayman Brac who laid down their lives for the freedom and the various things that we enjoy here today. And
indeed, from the entire country, from all of the districts, and equally, speaking to right now, just to you and Mr. Paul, we realize those who serve under the U.S. flag, and those who serve with the mother country. Mr. Paul, you're part of the Royal Commandos, right?
That's right, and I totally agree with what was said with Locksley and Sydney, and that Caymanians have served, and they continue to serve, and that's the message that we would like to get out to the general public. But we do need to do more than a lip service, forming a register of all those that serve. We could have a digital register that could be, updated or changed if we got a date wrong. But that is something that we really need to do. When you think about it, Caymanians served in World War I, World War II, Northern Ireland and all, Afghanistan, you name it. But Caymanians, when you look at some of the pictures, and you see that they were probably only maybe 9 police in Grand Cayman. I don't know if Cayman Brac had police in the 1940s, but all of those volunteered and went to Trinidad to serve in the Trinidad Royal Navy Volunteer Reserve. But what has come to light through Locksley, that there are so many Caymanians that have served in the U.S. forces. And, I'm a firm believer that our geographical location has a lot to do with the success of these islands.
Yes, sir.
And we would need and should, and may I say will do, is get this register so that at least we will be able to show that off to all the community of today that Caymanians have served.
Indeed. You know, and as I listen to you, I'm mindful of a couple of things. I sort of want to ask, you know, for the best way for people to, and this is just what I'm thinking, their family who may know that their fathers or grandfathers or great grandfathers may have been involved. You know, how do they send that information through? So maybe you can give that to us shortly. But I was just thinking, through this program and our discussions with you guys in particular, we've discovered a couple of things. One, that even the American, you know, Civil War, we had Caymanians, you know, on one side of the equation and the other. And we had an opportunity some years ago, one of the code talkers from the US, you know, interviewing him. He was here in Cayman during World War II, you know, stationed at a naval base, uh, doing the translations and the communication. So the strategic positioning of Cayman has and is continuing to bode well for our success. Maybe something that we should not take for granted, and maybe something that, as you shared, we need to continue to recognize and to champion as we position ourselves in this new sort of environment.
I think what Paul outlined there is quite. We hope that we can really pull that all together. And you mentioned how best for those folks listening to get the information to us. Well,
yeah,
I don't think Sydney would mind me giving. I'm not sure whether we connected up with him yet, but for those folks in Cayman Black, I'm sure if you get a hold of Sydney, and probably everybody over there knows Sydney Ebanks, but I think the form, if you can just write it out in one's handwriting, because a lot of this information is with the older folks, or they could get somebody to write it out in just as short as it can be in narrative, and get it all to us, and we can vet it and make sure that whatever we come up with, is authentic. And you can, I'm sure, Paul, all the Eastern districts, they can get hold of Paul. Paul, I guess you don't mind me giving out your number, since you're down there near the woods in the hut, no? Somewhere. So.
I'm here in the best district in the island where the breeze is cool.
Okay. Well, let me give the folks the number that you can hook up with Paul is 916-0701. That's 916-0701. And you can even, I think, call Radio Cayman, and they will connect you up. You can call my number. Can I remember it now? 916-7755. And any of the other fellows who are in the Cayman Islands Veterans Association, or President Andrew could not join us here today because he is very well taxed with another task today, and he just couldn't kind of break out to get a little time. But as I said earlier, there were quite a number of men. I'm not sure there were any ladies that actually suffered death or died as a result of war, the wars. But there were quite a number that really gave their life, and I can just name out a few here that we've come up with that we know. There was Robert Hunter from Cayman Black, and he was an RAF pilot. He flew the Halifax bombers, and he crashed, I think it was somewhere in France or Germany, and of course he lost his life. Now, we believe that there are people throughout all our districts, that served. We know that they served, but some that served lost their lives. Now, I am most familiar with West Bay, of course, and I can tell you, but before that, if you go down to the Eltham Memorial Church in Georgetown, you'll see a lot of plaques there that give that demonstrate some of this information. And of course, we've been there and we've collected some of that information that's on there. Even, I think, throughout some of the cemeteries, I know there's at least one in the West Bay Cemetery that is marked veteran. But getting back to the ones who lost their lives, and these would be mostly, I think they were either consigned to the U.S. Armored Transport Service through the British Merchant Marine or the U.S. Merchant Marine. And, you take Bentley Ebanks, he was from right up there in the near Yam Peace in West Bay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let me bring him in just a little bit. Let me finish this thought. And then, there was Ashby Banks. He was, and I'll just connect some of these people up. They've got families here in Cayman. Bentley Ebanks was the uncle of Stanton Ebanks and McTerry Ebanks and Wenzel Ebanks and Wenzel Burlington, I guess. Yeah, it's not. And a lot of other folks. Alice Jackson, Ashby Banks. He was the uncle of Captain Dale Banks. Actually, Captain Temple's son. Now, he was U.S. Navy, but he was, as the information that we can get a hold of, he was a gunner on a merchant ship. He was torpedoed, and usually, if in those days, if a ship was torpedoed, the general instruction was to the other ships, if they were in a convoy, don't stop. But somehow, he was picked up by another ship. They must have got close enough to him to throw a line, and he got aboard that ship, and in 43 minutes later, that ship was torpedoed, and he lost his life. And Ernie Rivers, as far as we know, were torpedoed. And he's got relatives, nephews. In fact, one of them, I think, served in the police force for quite a while. And then there was Cecil Ebanks. Now, he's got grandchildren here who are very active in the community, trying to help the community and do their good. There was Haysma. He's got nephews and nieces. Well, I know nieces, 2 or 3 nieces here in the community, and of course his son, Raleigh Ebanks, whom a lot of people knew Raleigh. He became a maritime engineer and served in the U.S. Merchant Fleet for a long time. And then there was Weldon Ebanks. And he's got a nephew here. Can't even think of his name. But anyway, his grandnephew runs the Cayman Islands office in London. So you see how all these connections come down of service people, Caymanians, laying their lives down for their country, freedom and democracy, and how it trickles down, how it comes down, and how we all today are benefiting from their service, their dedication to the defense of freedom and democracy. I mean, you think of Ladner Watler, who we mentioned also. His nephew, I think, was Ladner, and you think of the service that he did to this community and probably still doing. So you see how all this connects. So we should not really miss a chance to, respect these people, show these folks respect and remembrance on special occasions, especially. And I think that's basically what we're trying to do today, and to get this list, this memorial scroll, as it might be called, up, so that when those of us who are 3/4 home from the start to the finish are gone, that the young folks coming up can have a grasp of the Caymanians' dedication to the preservation and defense of freedom and democracy over the years. And I think someone whispered in my ear that Sydney's on the line, and Susan, maybe you can bring him in. And Sydney, come in from the back.
Hey, Mr. Oxley, how are you today?
Yeah, good, Sydney. Good to have you. I guess you've been listening to what we've been doing, and if you got a little input from the back there.
Yeah, I kind of missed your call earlier. I had to go out, but anyway, I'm on the road right now, and I'm stopped, parking, waiting, and whatever you want to ask, let's go.
Well, I don't know whether you were able to come up with any of the other names. We mentioned that Robert Hunter, who was an RAF pilot flying the Halifax bombers, that he lost his life, in the service of freedom and democracy. I don't know if you were able to come up with any other names, but we know that there are others from the BRAC who also made the supreme sacrifice.
Yes, they are. I did not come up with it. I did not do the research like I should have. I was working with my brother-in-law, George Walton, who's very much involved with that, sort of the preservation of all of the not homes, but personnel that were in the military. But I did not get a chance to get with him in the last day or so to find out exactly what information I could obtain from him.
Okay, well, I think with the folks in the BRAC who may have some of this information, because as you probably heard, we know that, we have not got probably, I would think, no more than 15 to 20, 25% of the information relative to people who have served in the Commonwealth military or call it NATO or Western, the Canadian, even Canadian and U.S. forces, but specifically those who made the supreme sacrifice, who have lost their lives. So I think all those folks can connect up with Sidney Ebanks or Major Walton, and just if you can give them just the basic information of what you have in a simple narrative, 2-3 paragraph narrative, and we're going to make a giant effort to try to collate all of this, and so that that folks coming behind us will have this information and they can be guided.
Yeah, that is correct. I tried a while back to find out who was involved with the Trinidad, Jamaican, and also on the within the military transport of the people from Cayman. But everyone that I talked to did not have that information, and the older ones that I would have leaned on, unfortunately, they're all gone. Like my dad, my uncle Joe McLean, Liston McLean, all of those were into that type of service, but they're all gone now. And so I got to have to do some more research to see who I can find around the BRAC that can give me the information that I can jog it down and pass it on to you.
Yeah, well, I know that we, over the years, we gathered quite a bit of information from, Radio Cayman and Doran, especially Doran Miller, who was very, very deep into Caymanian history from Captain Chief Tibbets. And but I'm sure there's some others in the community who would probably have some information that have not yet come to the surface. And it's what those folks did, And today, of course, we're specifically thinking about the ones who laid down their lives, who made the supreme sacrifice in the defense and preservation of our freedom and democracy. And we're hopeful that someday that there'll be a civics class in the schools that, that if the Caymanian, if the folks coming behind us, will have a little bit of familiarization with, let's say, the Cayman ethos, the Cayman spirit.
That's correct. Some months ago, my grandson had to do a paper for his college in the States, and I was given a history of my being in the military, places I've been and what I've done. And he said his professor was so surprised as to what he had learned from this paper that this young man was doing, because he never realized that, that he his family was into the military as I was rather. So, but I know that I need to get this information because I think you and I talked about this some time ago, and I'm going to talk to George Walton again, and I'm trying to find people I'm coming back that knew about all the locals that was into the Jamaica forces, the Trinidadian forces, and also, like I mentioned before, on the military ships that were running dynamite, torpedo, and everything, whatever they can, across the ocean. So I will try to get that information, and I'm going to send it on to you as soon as I can.
Okay, Sid. Well, thanks a lot for chiming in from our sister islands over there. And how's the weather?
Well, today it's like, but it must be like 900 degrees. It can't be anything less than that. Yesterday we had abundance of rain, and day before, but then today, El Sol came out and says, "Well, that was it for you. Now today is my turn."
Oh, there you go.
Very hot over here today.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in for us. There's a little bit of information that I guess maybe may have gotten through to you late, but anyway, thanks for coming in with us.
I listened to you. It was quite informative. I mean, you've got a storehouse of knowledge there that you said we need to get it on paper and get it down, that eventually those that come behind us will see and know what we did for them and for the freedom of this of all the Cayman Islands, all the islands, and all the world.
Right, and that's what we're aiming at, because I would venture to say that 75%, maybe even more, of our population probably don't have the first inkling of the Caymanian dedication to the defense of freedom and democracy. And it's important that they know that, so that when they come here and mash into the society, that they really know what CI is all about.
That is correct. I would agree with you with this. I think maybe even more than 75%, but I guess what we'll have to do is get our heads together, document it so that if they want to read it, or they can present it in school like you were suggesting, that they'll know what the Cayman Islands have done in military conflict for the world and the islands.
Right, yes, yeah. Well, thanks again, and I guess, Paul, you want to chip in there with something? Dwayne, you're still with us, hopefully.
Oh,
yes, sir.
yeah.
Yes, sir.
I'm listening. I'm listening very good here. I'm looking at old, I believe that's how you pronounce it, Alden E. Banks, Merchant Navy British. And he was on let's see if I can say this properly, Narragansett. That was the ship. It was a motor tanker, and he was attacked. The ship was attacked on about the 25th of March, 1942. Now, he was a relative of mine, and we just found out lately that my grandfather had two brothers that went to the BRAC and married two sisters. How about that? And one of those, Richard Evans, that had married Clara Ann, they went to St. Mary in Jamaica. And this Alden E. Banks, that's the easiest part of the name to say, is the son of Richard Evans.
Yeah, well, there's so much information still out there that we have to gather, and hopefully that we can get it all pulled together here in not too distant future. That is the Cayman Islands Veterans Association, and we know that we've got a lot of young veterans in the society who need to come forward and help us with this. So all of you ex-Coast Guard, ex-U.S. Army, and U.S. Air Force, U.S. whatever it is, Royal Navy, come and help us with this, what we're trying to do. I mean, and even today, there are Caymanians who are serving in all the forces, the Commonwealth forces and the U.S. North American forces. In fact, some of them are in high positions.
Indeed. Gents, we do have a short break to take. We do also have a caller online. Respectfully, let's pause, take the break, and then rejoin the conversation when we come back. For those that are listening, we remind you that the freedoms we enjoy today came at a very, very high cost. So we want to honor and celebrate those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Please, stay tuned for Talk Today.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up to date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Fidelity Bank would like to thank all essential workers. We salute your efforts and thank you for the sacrifices you've made to keep us all safe. During these challenging times we're facing, our top priority is the health and safety of the communities we serve. And while it's true that things are changing rapidly every day, one thing that will never change is our commitment to giving you the best and sound financial solutions to help you during and after the coronavirus pandemic. At Fidelity Bank, our focus will always be you. Fidelity, we're good for you.
Radio Cayman News.
Over 1,000 results completed, and Governor Martin Roper says it is outstanding work.
There is no rioting, although as you can imagine, staff and prisoners have some anxiety.
Parliament met this week and lawmakers ploughed through 11 bills in a single day.
This has been a most eventful day, not the kindest day I've seen in this house.
Radio Cayman, your official source for Cayman's COVID-19 response. Hear it here first.
All residents are asked to stay at home unless you have permission to work, have to go to a medical facility, pharmacy, bank, or supermarket. If you must go out, remember to stay at least 6 feet from other persons who are not members of your household. This reduces the risk of transmission, whether or not a person with coronavirus is showing symptoms. Everyone must wear face masks or other face coverings while taking public transportation, inside buildings, or other public spaces. For more information and to view the new regulations in full, go to www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
All travel is restricted between the 3 Cayman Islands. Anyone wishing to move between the islands must first notify the medical officer of health or director of the sister islands' health services. They must also undergo a 14-day mandatory isolation period at a government facility, as well as mandatory testing. Following a negative test at the end of isolation, they will be transported directly to the airport. For more information, go to www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
I've got some beautiful clothes. I know just where they go. Puritan Cleaners.
We are open. Visit Puritan Cleaners drive-through off Eastern Avenue, 8 a.m. till 3 p.m., Monday to Saturday. Our Elgin Avenue and Savannah locations will remain closed. However, your items can easily be transferred to Eastern Avenue. Just call us at 949-7104. That's 949-7104 with your request. Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us. As we invite you to call and share your thoughts, we have the excellent company of Mr. Loxley Banks, Mr. Paulie Banks, and we also were joined earlier by Mr. Sidney Banks over at the BRAC. Gents, we do have a call online as well. Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, to Ms. Susan, to the gentleman that is in the studio there, and to all our listeners. Good afternoon. Pleasant afternoon to all. I have some information which my father was a survivor of a freighter that was torpedoed off Little Cayman, I think southwest of Little Cayman, somewhere between that and Grand Cayman. My father, Mr. Alliston Scott, the late Mr. Diddy. My son is carrying his name, Alliston Scott. He said they were torpedoed, and he managed to get in a lifeboat, and another Cayman Brack man, Mr. Selvin Scott, which that is Miss Patsy Ann's father. He was also a crew member on the ship, and they survived it. They got into the lifeboat after their ship was torpedoed by the German submarine. And I remember my father telling me, he said, after we got inside the lifeboat now, frightened to death and getting off the ship into the lifeboat, that the Germans fired a torpedo just above their heads, imagine. Shot across their heads above the boat, the survival craft lifeboat that had taken them on board. They had survived from. And also, Mr. Edward E. Banks, the brother to the late Mr. Guy Banks, was on board that same ship, and he was killed. And the U.S. Navy, or I think the U.S. Navy or somebody, brought his body ashore in a lead casket, and that was buried in the cemetery in Little Cayman. That was the late Mr. Edward E. Banks. He was from Little Cayman, and that time was very active around. It was very dangerous, and to really see how we came about as the Caymanian history of seafaring. And I am the one that maintains the respects and honors given to our seamen and their wives and relatives whenever someone needs a celebration for a certain event or needs a salute and tribute and honor to all our seamen that regrettably is passing away so often from our heritage of seafaring in the Cayman Islands.
Okay, Raymond, can I cut in here? I don't know whether you've ever seen the map that was produced quite a while ago of all of the ships that were torpedoed on what is termed the Caribbean basin. Did you ever see that map?
No, sir, I never seen that one.
Okay, well, someday I'll try to get you a copy of it, and I think it would be valuable information for you. Any information that you might have between your ears or under a blotter or whatever, if you could put it in just a short narrative. I think what you've told us so far this afternoon is very, very important and very valuable. And any more that you got, if you could put it in just a short narrative, written narrative in your own handwriting, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Also, a lookout was placed on the bluff, on the end of the bluff, Cayman Brack, being the highest point in the Cayman Islands. There were lookouts there, people looking out during the wartime for submarines and ships, etc.
Yeah, well, that was all around the island. In fact, there were lookouts all around Cayman Brack, and we've documented some of that history of what those guys, and they were the home guard, what they had to put up with here. But Raymond, thanks for calling us up. We'll try to move along here. We got the press conference coming up in a little bit, but thanks for your input.
Most welcome,
Indeed,
sir.
sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
Okay.
Sterling.
Yes, sir.
You heard just his description there of and describing what his father told him. Think of what the wives and families were going through here in Cayman, knowing and back in those days, I think they had a good handle on the dangers that their men was facing. And someone gave me a poem, and I can't really bring to mind who gave it to me. Somebody might have pushed it in my hand someday when I was out doing broadcast or something. But it's called The Soldier's Sweetheart, and it was composed by one of these folks that were on shore here, listening to all what was going on. And it's quite a long, but I'll try to read you just two paragraphs that kind of, really puts it in perspective. And it's called The Soldier's Sweetheart. Once I had a sweetheart brave and true. His hair was dark and curly. His loving eyes were blue. He told me that he loved me, and he often proved it true. For often came to see me when the evening sun was low, but they took him away to that awful German war. And I'll skip down to another paragraph here. It said, he promised me he'd write to me. Now, he went away to war. He promised me he'd write to me. That promise he kept true. And when I read the letter from him, I prayed the war would be through. The second letter I got from him, the war was just ahead. Then the third one, written by his captain, said, my darling boy was dead.
Wow.
So that that just paints I think a vivid picture of the contribution that Caymanians made in the defense of freedom and democracy, and what the whole Cayman back during those days, their contributions, because the people at home were very they were very aware of, even though I think, especially during World War II, there probably was not more than, I would think, if there was a half a dozen radios in West Bay, and there probably wasn't, and in the various other districts, maybe you only had one radio. Some of them might not have had any, but they were relatively informed about what was going on outside of our borders, and they kept up with all the news. And when you compare that with today's information and the access that the community has to it, and that probably what we've talked about in the last about 55 minutes, about 40 minutes, could be, as Sydney said, maybe more than 75% of our community does not have an inkling about it. So that's why it's important that we put this all in capsule and get it preserved, that the young folks coming along will have a good idea of what Cayman is all about and what it will take to move it forward in a positive, promising, and let's put in there, God-fearing direction, keeping it between the lines.
Indeed. I think as I listen to people looking at today and the environment in which we live, probably don't necessarily understand. For many of us, when the younger folks, the ultimate sacrifice, the idea that what we have, it didn't just come overnight, or didn't just come because of a stroke of a pen. It was the ultimate sacrifice, and it's not meant to inflame people, but to appreciate that the freedoms to say and to do are freedoms to be preserved, and we need to understand how crucial it is.
If I could just read the last paragraph of this thing, because and when I turn it over and look at it, I think it brings to light what the dedication of the families that were here. It said, I'll keep all of his letters, and I'll keep his gold ring too, and I'll always live a single life for the soldier who was so true. So, that kind of, I think, paints the picture.
It does. No, Mr. Paul, from your perspective, that walk from North Side all the way to, must have been a one track.
Well, Sterling, when I look at the pictures of, say, Caymanians, you got to say reported for duty, and it was all down Elmsley Memorial Church. When I look at some of those pictures, they're in their best dressed, as you might say. Their shoes are clean. The suit mightn't fit them, but they are there, and that is so beautiful to me anyway, because in those days you didn't just jump out there and, catch a taxi or call somebody to give you a lift or hitch a ride or anything else. My belief is that they traveled in other clothes, and because we had a lot of bushes and they could hide in the bush and change them, somebody would pick them up. But the point I'm trying to make is that they showed up in the best they had, willing to serve. And that, to me, is such a beautiful thing to remember.
As I listened to both of you and Mr. Sidney earlier, and well, let me be mindful of Miss Susan. Gents, we do have a short break. We also have some callers, so with respect, let's take the break and then join our callers.
Obey the laws and wear the gauze. Protect your jaws from septic paws. Stay clean, Cayman, with hand sanitizer from $3.25, 10 surgical masks for $9.99, and 2 packs of KN95 masks for $6.99. Wholesale pricing available at all 5 Liquor for Less locations: Shedden Road, North Church Street, Savannah, Northside, and the McClendon Drive Airport location. Don't miss the incredible lockdown price markdown and manager specials exclusively at Liquor for Less. Hundreds of fine starting from cases of ice cold below wholesale prices, and save $9 off liters. Prices so low we can't say it on the radio. Liquor for Less enforces the wearing of masks and social distancing while in store, and encourage other preventative measures to help stop the spread of COVID-19, such as consistent hand washing and only leaving home for essential purposes.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes, Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore,
Has being quarantined at home have you looking at your living space differently? Well, Tomlinson Furniture is now offering free island-wide deliveries and phone consultations to help you design a comfortable living space. For inspiration and ideas, browse the Tomlinson Furniture and Mattress Gallery Facebook page, Tomlinson Furniture Cayman on Instagram, or website at tomlinsonfurniture.ky. Open from 9:30 a.m. for phone consultations and orders. Call 949-5383. Tomlinson Furniture and the Mattress Gallery. Free delivery island-wide.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you for joining us, and a very special thanks to both Mr. Loxton Banks and Mr. Paul Ebanks for reminding us of the importance of service to the country and those freedoms that we enjoy today. Gents, we do have some callers online. I know we have the press briefing at 2, so respectfully, let's just go to our callers. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Yes, good afternoon. How are you?
This is Roy Barton.
Mr.
Roy Barton. Hi, Loxley. How are you doing?
Doing okay, Roy. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, I need to just put in a little about my father, which I don't think a lot of folks know. Well, they know about him with National Bulk Carriers, of course. But from 1942 until 1946, he served in the British Navy. Out of Jamaica, he served on 2 minesweepers, the HMS Morgan and the HMS Explorer. And by the end of World War II, he had attained the rank of Chief Petty Officer, which made him the only Caymanian in the British Navy that attained that rank of Chief Petty Officer. And I remember those years. I was just a child, of course, but I can remember going aboard the HMS Morgan and the Explorer when they were in Jamaica. How they would operate. They would go out of serve out of Jamaica, two out and two in, and of course if there were any emergencies. Both of them would go out to patrol, but that's how they work. The HMS Explorer and the HMS Morgan, and as I said before, my father served on them until 1946, when the HMS Morgan was returned to Halifax, where it came from originally, and my father took the HMS Morgan up there as the chief petty officer on those two ships. So I just wanted to.
Yes, sir. That's great information, Roy. Good. Glad to hear it. But I think also Mr. McCoy, Harry McCoy, I believe that he attained the rank of petty officer, chief petty officer, while he was in the Trinidadian Navy, because he was a signal caller or a signaler. And those days it was with the lights.
But you know something, Loxley, very few people talk about the British Navy being in Jamaica. They talk a lot about Trinidad, but very little about Jamaica. In fact, I've never heard anyone talk about the Caymanians. There were some other Caymanians that served on the Morgan and the Explorer as well. I don't recall their names to tell the truth, but I know that there were some others as well.
Well, Roy, maybe you can.
Well, I'm going to do a little bit more research and see if I can find out who those names are.
Go deep into that hard drive that you still got between your ears there. It's probably buried somewhere down in there.
Down there someplace.
Yeah. Well, thanks for calling.
It's good talking to you.
It was a pleasure. Ms. Loxley, we do have another caller. Let's go to the phones.
Before that, because I know we're coming up on news time here pretty soon, I just want to say, that it's quite, I don't know what frame we're going to put this in, but that there's a regiment being formed here in Cayman. And I think it's quite fitting. The Cayman Islands Veterans Association, I don't think we've been, to my knowledge anyway, I don't think Paul has any knowledge of it, very much involved with any of that activity. And there's an enormous wealth of knowledge, expertise, inspirational capital, and positive enlightenment and influence within the Cayman Islands Veterans Association. And I'm sure they would all like to contribute to the success and the building of this regiment in the Caymanian framework.
Indeed, and maybe even when we think about that, it'd be an opportunity to even redefine what this thing is going to be, but just another time. Ms. Uzo, maybe quickly, we could probably take that call. Good afternoon.
Hello?
Good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yeah. How are you doing?
Oh, excellent. And you?
Excellent. Yeah, I congratulated Susan on that beautiful piece of poetry. I heard it last night. It was beautiful. Anyway, what I'm calling about was that, somebody said to me today, a young person asked me if I heard that I should stay out of the sunshine because this coronavirus thing it makes it worse. Now, I don't know which idiot that puts that out there, whoever that might be. But the vitamin D3 that we get from the sun is one of the things that helps you with this thing. I do it every day. I get up and I take a half hour sitting in the sun. And when I'm through, I can feel the difference. I don't have the disease, but when I do that, I feel what's wrong with us? I don't know who putting that stuff out there. These are people that have nothing better to do. But D3 from the sunshine, get your sunshine if you got this thing. And I said some time ago that if the government, when they lock these people up inside these rooms, they don't want them to come out and stuff like that. They're only making them worse, because if they had a place where they could go and get some sunshine, they would feel better. It would be something that help them. Oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad that people do things like that. Anyway, I hope you have a good afternoon.
You too, sir. God bless. Mr. Loxley, Mr. Paul, I don't know whether you invite you to share some final thoughts with us, or you want us to play it by ear and see where it goes.
Well, I think we could just take you through the news, and hopefully we'll get at least a 47-second warning that we'll go into the press conference.
Let's do that then. All right, we're going to pause and go to the news. When we come back, we'll ask you to join us.
From district to district, moving through the waters to Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Your station, your voice. All things Cayman. One radio, many people. This is home.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Your 2 p.m. headlines brought to you by greenturtle.ky. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app, the future of mobile, saving lives today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio Cayman.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access to information.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The Port Authority wishes to advise persons with vehicles that have been imported but remain uncleared at the Port Authority's facilities to arrange clearing and collection as soon as possible. As space is limited at the Port Authority property, the number of uncollected vehicles is reducing the amount that can be imported each week, resulting in a backlog of vehicles in Jamaica awaiting shipment to Grand Cayman. For those persons who have vehicles currently in Jamaica awaiting shipment to Grand Cayman, contact your agent or broker to advise them whether you are ready and in a position to clear the vehicle immediately as it arrives in Cayman. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. The people of Suriname will decide today whether President Desi Bouterse, who has been found guilty of murder and sentenced to 20 years in prison, will continue to lead the South American country. Voters will cast their ballots for members of the National Assembly, who in turn elect the president. 74-year-old Bouterse said he was confident of winning a third consecutive term. His appeal against his conviction is due to be heard in June. And Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has said that Nigerian farmers must produce enough for the country to eat, saying that the country has no money to import food. The comments follow concerns around food insecurity during the coronavirus pandemic and rising food prices in Africa's most populous nation. According to the UN's Food and Agriculture Program, even before the COVID-19 crisis, farmers had not been able to satisfy demand for Nigeria's population of some 200 million. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Social distancing is crucial for our community to get back to normal. And never before has communication been so crucial. Keeping in touch with family, friends, and up-to-date requires you to stay in touch. Green Turtle offers the solution for both. Download the Green Turtle app now. Top up yours or a loved one's phone with any mobile carrier in any destination in Cayman. Phones delivered to your home, and with the new rewards program, you can even redeem points towards a new phone and other products. Download the Green Turtle app today. Green Turtle is not only the future of mobile, but today it can help save a life. Hashtag Stay Home Cayman. Take a ride on the Green Turtle Express today. Download the Green Turtle app. The future of mobile, saving lives today.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Your Radio Cayman 7 a.m. news, brought to you by Cayman National, proudly serving the Cayman Islands since 1974. Visit www.caymannational.com for up-to-date information for all your financial needs and follow us on social media.
But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us, and especially to Mr. Loxley Banks and Mr. Paulie Banks from our Veterans Association for reminding us. Gents, I trust that as a public, we're listening, we're mindful, and we're endeavoring to become engaged in our sort of electoral process, making sure we get registered to vote so that we can cast our ballots in a free and fair democracy. Because that sacrifice, that ultimate sacrifice, was to ensure that we have the freedoms that we enjoy today. Mr. Loxley?
Yeah, well, I think that's the only way that we will be able to maintain it is to all of us to get involved. And just going back to what that last caller, the subject that he kind of veered off to, but it's important that the right information gets out there, because all information that I have had relative to what he said or what that I've heard over the years, it's just the opposite. So we thank him for because if that kind of information is falling around in the community, then something should be done to correct it. But everybody should get registered to vote and vote your conscience and
yes, sir.
Do what's necessary.
Mr. Loxley,
Yeah.
Mr. Wisdom references that we have a couple of callers. Let's take our phones. Good afternoon, welcome.
Sterling,
Hey, good afternoon, Mom. How are you?
you know who this is, right?
Yes, Mom. Good afternoon.
I'm good. I'm very thankful as usual and blessed, highly blessed. I know you're doing okay too, and your people, right?
Amen. Amen. Yes,
And I
Mom.
hope the same for all the others that is paying close attention and using their common thing there. God is saying it's not so common anymore. But it's a plan. It's like a plan that got that common thing. Yeah, Mr. Loxley.
Yes, I'm here.
And you know this voice too, right?
Yeah, I do. Yes, definitely.
Okay. I am the eldest granddaughter of Mr. Robert McKinley Bush, the late Mr. Robert McKinley Bush.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yes, definitely.
Okay. And the eldest daughter too of the late Hillary, his daughter, Kiki.
Yeah.
Okay. It is still a good life going on. Life must go on. About my grandfather, no. I did mention this to you before about him being in England in the war. I think in World War II.
Yes.
And you had asked me if you had any documentation of him and stuff, and I had said no because my mom was too young at that time to be able to, realize to save anything.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do have is a photo of him in his nice full suit with his not his uniform, his nice full suit and his nice felt hat, and then this little young boy looking over his shoulder. I remember he told Mama this and Uncle Ronnie and Uncle Bobo and all that, but also told his grandchildren who Mama's children is the eldest grandchildren. Okay.
Well, if you could somewhere along the line get a copy of that photograph and get it to us here, get it to me or get it to any of us who are in the Cayman Islands Veterans Association, and also to or you can just drop it off at Radio Cayman sometime, and they'll get it to us, and that would be great, because I knew your grandfather very well, very 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 well, yeah, and I was aware that he was over there, but sometimes all of these things slip through the crack, and you never catch him before. But thank you for your information there, and that's the kind of information that we're looking for, to collate from those in our community about the service of our people, men and women, who defended freedom and democracy, and did it so that we could enjoy what we have here today.
All right. Well, thanks very much. And Ms. Doctor, we do have Captain Paul, I think, joining us as well. So let's just take the call. We do have the press briefing in a moment. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I can make it short. The ship that Raymond was talking about was a Norwegian flagship. Her name was the Gunderson. She came to Cayman to bring cargo for the U.S. Navy when the Navy was here. And she shipped one guy. He used to work in H.O. Marion Hardware Store. He was from Little Cayman, I think. His name was Clyde Scott. He was the only, as far as I know, remember hearing, he was the only one that was killed on her. But I remember it very, because she came here just after the Kamiako was sunk out there, because it was a crew that's the first time I seen Raid Laid from South Ashley Bush, John Hines, and Leon Bush, and Ellsworth Bush. They was chipping the side. They hired these men to chip the side of her and painted it with Raid Laid. I never seen anything like that in my life, so I didn't know what it was. But I think Raymond's father was on her. I think he was on her because I sailed with him, and I think he told me the story too. So that's a little bit of information. I hope it'll help.
Always, sir. That's Loxley.
Yeah, that's great information. I think I guess it looks like we're going to the press conference shortly. So maybe Paul, we can wrap this up here and Jolene, and you can sing us into the press conference.
Yes, sir. Mr. Paul?
Yeah, I think that there are two words that begin with that I'm going to...
Yeah, hello, Mr. Paul? Okay. All right, Miss Susan, do we have the... Okay. Yeah, I think we somehow don't have Mr. Paul, Mr. Mike. So, your thoughts, sir?
Well...
Okay. Interesting. Miss Susan, do we have anybody else? Well, Mr. Loxley, yes, sir?
Yeah, that's better. Well, I think, as I say, we go into the press conference, so we'd like to wrap this up. But, now, those two last calls, really great information that we're looking for to get this roster or memorial scroll or whatever you want to call it completed, so that we can pass it on down. And anybody else out there, we say again, with any basic information, if you can get it to us in just a simple written narrative, 1 or 2 paragraphs, and we will take it and do whatever is necessary for us to do with it, and we'll get this the scroll completed, and where it can go down through the ages, and maybe updated in the future, because I think there will always be the call for the defense of freedom and democracy. And if we don't answer the call, then what the alternative is to that. So
exactly. And even now, when we think that life is good, we have to make sure we always, as you've shared, preserve that sense of freedom. I think you told us long ago on our discussions, with some of the other veterans, that that whole thing could shift overnight, and it just may be what's happening before our eyes.
Well, you just look at what happened here over the last 10, 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. The major shift in our existence that has occurred, and that comes back to all of us trying to do what is being asked of us, to get us through this period, and because if we don't, then the alternative is not very good.
Indeed. And as I reflect on the caller right before the news break, they talked about misinformation, bad information, disinformation, and the like. We have to be mindful. So, Ms. Loxley, thank you to our listeners. We do have the press briefing coming up, but we want you to come back tomorrow. We're going to start things off with Ms. Lucille Seymour. So listen to the press briefing, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. Well, thanks for having us, and let's get that information into us.
Oh, well,
Stop the spread of coronavirus by washing your hands with soap frequently. If none is available, use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Stay at home whenever you can. Avoid close contact with people outside your household by staying a minimum of 6 feet apart and wear a mask while in public. For more information, go to www.gov.ky/coronavirus.
Radio Cayman, and this is how we wake you up.
Come on, sing praises unto God, sing praises. Hallelujah. Lord, I thank you for sunshine, thank you for rain.
Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I'm Donna Bush. Glad you could join us in today's coronavirus press briefing via all of our channels as well as Radio Cayman. For today's prayer, we go to Pastor E.N. Morris.
Good afternoon, everyone. May I ask you to join with me in prayer, please, as we present our government and our leaders before the Lord this time. Dear God, I come to you in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, on behalf of the Cayman Islands. We have, Lord, been hit with the wrath of nature before, and your guiding hands have kept us safe. You have protected us, O God, from the dangers of Mother Nature. We say thanks to you, Lord. Thank you for protecting these islands. Lord, we are at this time experiencing a difficult situation in our nation, a situation, Lord, that has never been experienced before. We've been plagued with this malignant virus, COVID-19. I lift up, O God, before you now, the leaders in government and those, O Lord God, in authority. But more so, I present to you the governor, the premier, and the minister of health. Lord, they have been charged with the responsibilities to make stringent decisions for the well-being of these islands as we face this pandemic. I pray that you will help them, O Lord, with this burden. Guide their thoughts as they wrap their minds around to hammer out ways and means in making tactical and correct decisions to fight this unseen enemy that has come to steal, to kill, and to destroy us. I pray your divine protection for our frontliners, O Lord, the health workers, the police, the social workers, and the essential workers from harm and the dangers of this virus. O God, cover the borders of these islands now, I pray, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, as I reach out in the realms of the Spirit and arrest this malignant and diabolical demon that is called COVID-19 in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth. As your servant, Lord, I trample on it and place it in the fire of God, the Holy Spirit, and we eradicate it right now from the Cayman Islands and send it back to the abyss of hell. Oh God, in the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, I declare these things and call it done for your glory and for your honor. Be with us now, we pray, and have your mighty hands rest upon us and these islands. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
And thank you, Pastor Morris. Let's now welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, our Honorable Premier, as well as our Honorable Minister of Health. With us in the studio are the Chief Medical Officer, the Director of HMCI, as well as our sign language interpreter. Joining us via Zoom are members of the media, along with the Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez. We go first to Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon. The
Labs have been busy over the weekend, especially the Health Services Authority. There are 975 tests which have been reported in the last 3 days. 214 of these were from the Doctors' Hospital. Of those, there are 5 positive new cases, all of whom did not have symptoms at the time their tests were done. One was a contact of somebody known to have COVID-19, and the other 4 were part of the general screening program. That brings our totals to 134 people who have been diagnosed to have SARS-CoV-2 in Cayman. We have 13 symptomatic people, 59 asymptomatic, no one is admitted, and 61 have recovered. As you know, we've been screening the construction industry as they start to go back to work. Some went back last week, a further tranche have gone back today, and more people will be going back over the next few days. We've been wanting to do this with the benefit of evidence to check that we were not going to run into any problems with pockets of people who had COVID disease and were then able to spread it. We have had 6 people positive so far in the screening program relating to construction industry, and we have the results for around 10% of that group so far. Of those 6, there don't appear to be any particular clustered groups, and 6 is a small number out of 850, of course. We will continue to report that group and are anticipating that we will have around 2,000 construction workers in total to report as time goes along. The last thing I wanted to do is just to give you a little bit of an understanding about the decision, the information that's driving the decisions. I'm hoping in front of you, you now have a graph. Hoping there might be some confirmation of that, because we don't have it here in front of us. But essentially, you'll see a lot of blue bars that gradually increase across the screen. And as they increase from left to right, that shows the numbers of tests that we're doing on a daily basis, starting from when we began the testing program around the 25th of April, now going up to where we currently are. You can see that there has certainly been an escalation where there is marked on the graph mass screening, which is when our mass screening program started and where we really ramped up the number of tests that we were doing. On the graph, you'll also see a wiggly orange line that rises towards the right. The orange line has a different axis, vertical axis, than the blue lines. And at its uppermost, it reaches a height of around 1%. And that is the number of positive people with COVID-19 as the numerator over the denominator, which is the number of tests we're doing, seen as a percentage. So it's the number of positive cases as a percent every day compared to the number of tests that we're doing. That is the line that we're watching closely, eagle-eyed, to see if that begins to take an upward trend. If that takes an upward trend, that's going to be something that will make us sit up and take notice, as it will mean that there's a suggestion that there is some increasing spread that's going on beyond what we currently have, which is sporadic cases dotted about the communities across Cayman. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Lee, thank you very much for that. Ralph from Caymanian Times has a question for you.
Good afternoon, Dr. Lee, and thank you for your presentation. Can you say how many samples are waiting to be tested, and how long will it take for the individuals to get results from their tests?
I'm going to hazard a guess at the minute that it's around just over 1,000 that are waiting to be resulted. Because of the numbers that are waiting, we were very energetically screening people last week. We need to get through some of that backlog before we actually begin to start up the screening program again. And as in, the screening program is going on, but we don't want to start taking more swabs for people until we get some of that backlog down a little bit. There is an issue that if you keep a swab for too long, it will begin, the quality of information you'll get from it will degrade. So we must make sure that there's the right balance of numbers of samples waiting to go through the lab. There must be sort of a little bit of excess there in order that we don't run into problems elsewhere that we don't want.
Yeah, so you can get an idea of how long it will take.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. So I'm hoping that I'm hoping that we'll have the bulk of those done by the end of this week.
Okay.
I mean, if you can imagine that the labs are currently doing, the HSA, they're currently doing it around 300 results a day. So if we've got 1,000, you know, there we have it, just over 3 days. But we do also have to bear in mind that the predicted maintenance day that they were scheduled to have last Thursday was not able to happen, so that they will still need some maintenance time that is likely to be taken this week in order for them to work at top efficiency, because things are building up that just need attention to be cleared away and under the maintenance time.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ralph. We now go to the Cayman campus with Reshma.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon.
Just a quick question. The 6 construction workers that you mentioned who tested positive, are they included in the overall tally?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you just mentioned the backlog. With specific reference to the screening that is being done for the construction workers, do they have to wait for the results before they go back out to work? Because we wouldn't people reaching out to us being told that they can go ahead and go back out to work while the results are pending. What's the policy?
Yes, that's correct. We're essentially basing the decision on the sample. So we're looking at the sample to drive the decision. Similarly, very similarly to as we did in the BRAC, in Cayman BRAC, where we took a sample and then when we felt that the sample was sufficiently representative, we proceeded. As we saw on the BRAC, having done a 40% sample, we still ended up with sorry, I beg your pardon, a 20% sample, we still ended up with finding some positives afterwards. So that's still, a sample is only ever going to be represented and it won't tell you the entire story.
Okay. Of the cases that you reported today, were they all in Grand Cayman or did you have any from Cayman BRAC?
No, they were all on Grand Cayman.
Okay, my final question to you. How are we going with our PPE supplies and how are we going with our swab supplies?
We have got plentiful swabs. PPE, we're doing well. For a more in-depth analysis, I would ask the HSA to respond, as they've been collating the data largely around, I mean, they have the largest stores and they've also been purchasing it in conjunction with Health City, for example. But the last time I looked, there was several weeks of supplies available for us should we need to start using it at a rapid rate.
Okay, great. I see Dr. Williams is there. Is he available to possibly give us some numbers, or maybe later on in the press briefing we can get those?
Dr. Williams, if you can hear Reshma, can you please go ahead with an answer if you can help?
Yeah, I will get the exact number. I'll give it to you later on the press conference.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Williams. That's it from me.
Okay, Reshma, thank you. We now go to April from Radio Cayman.
Hi, Dr. Lee. This question is somewhat relative, but I'm just wondering in terms of the severity of illness. I know people aren't being hospitalized currently, but how ill are the people who are reporting symptoms?
We haven't had anybody reporting with symptoms since the 27th of April. That's the whole nature of the information I've been reporting for the last few weeks. These are being people that are coming positive as a result of the screening program, and they had no idea that they were sick. So we don't really have anybody at the moment who I'm reporting as positive that has symptoms. There are still some people who still have some symptoms, as we know, the symptomatic cases that we're hoping to get better, but they will get better with time, as we've seen.
So just to make sure that I've got this straight, when we're talking about the 13 symptomatic cases, these are people from a while back who are still lingering with them?
That's correct.
Great, thank you very much. And then one other quick question, and I haven't done my homework on this one, so please forgive me if it makes absolutely no sense. But I've had a couple of people ask about the potential impact of salt water on the coronavirus.
What was? Can you clarify your question, please?
Sure, certainly. So, there's some belief that salt water pretty much cures everything in the universe. But in the cases of certain things, they believe that exposure to salt water might be helpful in terms of it being a disinfectant or in terms of it, preventing the spread. And so I was really asked to see if there was any science behind any of that or whether that's just a good old-fashioned old wives' tale.
I think, with this particular virus, which doesn't survive very well outside of the body, we know that it does not like being exposed to ultraviolet of certain wavelengths. We know that it does not like being exposed to heat. We know that it does not like to be washed off you. All of these things happen when you go swimming in the sea. So I think it would generally not be a harmful thing to go swimming in the sea. We can see there would be potentially lots of benefits. But I don't think it's going to bring around a cure, but I have no worries about people swimming in the sea related to COVID.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, April. We now go to Wendy from CNS. Wendy, please go ahead.
Thanks, Donna. I just have a quick one for Dr. Lee today.
Welcome
Hello, Dr. Lee. Can you just give us some kind of explanation, or at least some kind of position on why it is that the test numbers are still not making that 450-day average target that we'd spoken about before, and why it is that we seem to be constantly facing backlogs and problems? Because I think the screening seems to be working, and the quicker you can get through the screening, the quicker things can happen. But yet it seems that 450 target continues to remain elusive.
Wendy, we've missed you. I'm not sure where you've been, but welcome back.
Thank you.
I think actually the figure that was given to you was between 400 and 450. You latched onto the 450. I'd prefer to latch onto the 400. That's item number one. Item number two is that figure was given for a Monday to Friday figure and did not include the weekend. So if you actually look, look at the average that's been produced from Monday to Friday, you'll find that it will probably exceeded the number of 400, maybe even 450 on a weekly basis.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. That's all I have for Dr. Lee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have one question for Dr. Lee before you go. Dr. Lee, persons who are asymptomatic, is there any stage, if they do, that they become symptomatic? Have we seen any cases of persons who...
I'd really have to check with the public health nurses. I don't believe so. They haven't reported that to me. I keep hearing that, it's an asymptomatic bunch. And also, as I mentioned, what day are we today?
Monday.
Monday, okay, sorry. As I mentioned on Friday, that a lot of these people appear to be at the tail end of their symptoms, of the values in the laboratories. They're presenting with relatively weak figures. So they may well have been sick a few weeks ago. You wouldn't have expected them to develop symptoms being relatively late in an infection.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Okay, thanks to the media. Now we're going to start the panel discussion with our Honourable Premier.
Thank you, Donna. Hello, everyone. I just have a few brief comments today really relating to the opening of construction. So last week, the 65 companies that had been identified, or 65 projects that had been identified, were permitted where they were ready to have a small number of personnel back on site to prepare for today. And today, all 65 projects have received their letters to allow them to recommence work. And so over the course of this week, you will probably see a number of the major projects starting to ramp up the number of personnel on site. The number of personnel estimated for those 65 projects is 1,670 individuals. And as Dr. Lee has said, we've had 6 positives from that. Well, there are actually more than that from that sector, 1,670 from that sector. And that sector includes the Home Depots and hardware stores as well. So if we included the positives, I can't remember how many, but I think most of us know there have been some positives from some of those as well. So while the number is far from alarming, it is sufficient to, I believe, to have fully warranted the careful way that we are reopening that particular sector. as Dr. Lee has pointed out, we really don't have the capacity to test everybody. Well, perhaps we do, but it would take an extraordinarily long period of time. So what we're doing is a representative sample, but we will really need to see what impact the reintroduction of those 1,670 persons into the workplace, into a circulation, will have on this graph that Dr. Lee has just spoken about. So that the plan has been that we would test, I think the number from memory is about 3,200 personnel from that sector, which is about 8,000 people, to give us a good idea of how the profile of the virus appears in that particular demographic. So over the course of this week, as Dr. Lee has said, a significant number of those persons swabbed from that sector will be resulted, a new verb that I've just learned, and we will have then, I think, a very good idea. But it seems to me, a complete lay person in these matters, that the results are trending in accordance with what we've seen from the broader community. You know, we're somewhere between 1% and 2% of those tested are showing positive, which is good and which is manageable. If that trend continues, we should be able to introduce into the workforce the balance of that particular sector over the course of the next few weeks. And I can say that work is continuing on what the next reopening will look like in terms of who we will allow, what categories of businesses and personnel we'll allow back out, and what other relaxations we can allow with respect to the social restrictions that are currently in place. So we continue to work hard at this, continue to act with a great deal of caution, because we do not want to repeat the errors that we have seen and are still witnessing in many other places where you hasten too quickly, and the result is not good. We have an incredible record here so far, just the one death, patient 0, which was an imported case. And the remarkable, I still shake my head every day about this, the remarkable phenomena that we don't have a single sick person sick with COVID-19 symptoms presenting, let alone in the hospital, which is incredible. And we would like to keep it that way. And I keep saying, while I know there's, and I know because I witness it every day myself, immense pressure from the business community to get their particular bit of the economy moving again. What we have done and what we are doing is proving to work very effectively. And as I keep saying, dead people don't make good customers, and sick people don't make good workers. So we continue to ask for people's patience and understanding as we manage this very difficult pandemic. I do believe, though, that in another 4 or so weeks, we will be in a place where most of us will be much happier with how we can move around, how we can live, and with less concern than is currently the case that we might be picking this up from someone whom we are next to, who we are talking to.
Thank you, Member Glocker. Your Excellency.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. And in a similar vein to the Premier in terms of where we are sort of overall, I mean, I do think that, you know, we went in hard and went in very early to eliminate this virus, and I again pay tribute to the very strong, robust and timely government action that sort of got us into this position. And I think we can be optimistic and hopeful about our current position, but it's also thanks to the enormous cooperation of all of you. So I thank all of you again for your patience and understanding in helping us to get to this position, because I do think the vast majority of people on these islands have acted very responsibly indeed, and I want to say thank you to you for that. So please keep up your guard. We have to keep going with the social distancing, basic hygiene, wearing masks in public places. That is all really important. But thank you all very much for your help on all of that. And on evacuation flights, first of all, I want to say that I'm extremely pleased with Saturday's BA flight, Airbridge flight to the Philippines. And I want to say thank you to everybody involved in that. So we were able to assist 280 people leave the islands on Saturday, and some of those people unfortunately didn't have funds to pay for their tickets. They were people who were already registered with the needs assessment unit. Some of them had their work permits sort of cancelled or expired, but with the generous support of two anonymous donations, we were able to support a number of people to go on that flight who otherwise wouldn't have been able to. So I do want to send particular thanks to those two anonymous organisations who donated funds. My thanks also to the Philippines authorities, airport staff here, NEOC staff, the UK Embassy in Manila, and my outstanding team who led and ensured that this flight happened. We are very focused on arranging more Airbridge flights, and we will announce details as soon as we have them. We're on track to organise another BA flight to London in the first half of June, and we're also now in detailed negotiations on flight to India, possibly more than one, and we're making really good progress on that, and I hope again to be able to make an announcement on that soon. To a couple of very quick shout-outs. I mean, first of all, we've been in this extraordinary situation now for well over 2 months. 22 March, we closed our borders. 24 March, the first curfew. And I want to pay particular tribute to Derek Byrne, our police commissioner, and his team, plus CBC and the special constables, because not only have they all performed fantastically throughout this, our law and order situation also remains very stable, which is extremely good news. And I also want to just give a shout out to our charitable sector. I think Acts of Random Kindness, Meals on Wheels, and Resilience Cayman, a newly formed community organisation partnering with the Chambers of Commerce, all doing really important charitable works, particularly around providing food kitchens and providing meals. And I know that many of our restaurants have really stepped up to support them in doing that. So my huge thanks to all of you. And then finally, I understand it is the birthday today of Natalie Urquhart, who is Danny Coleman's head of our hazard management team's sister. So many happy returns to you, Natalie.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Minister of Health.
Hi, thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone. Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, Little Cayman, and our Caymanian diaspora listening in. Hope everyone's well. Well, we're, as the governor said, we're here now well over 2 months, and it is a pleasure that we can drive to work with ease in 15 minutes to anywhere that we want now. And what's the benefit of no traffic jams? Well, traffic jams have disappeared from our roads as people stay home from this COVID-19 pandemic, working from home. Some loss of jobs, unfortunately, are things to note, but we can be confident jams will be back if we don't learn from this COVID-19. The novel coronavirus has brought the world into uncharted waters, and no early morning wake-ups anymore. And life in lockdown means getting up late. No commute to the office. People are getting up later and don't need to get up until about 30 minutes before starting work from home. It should be noted that sleep is critical to physical health, and effective functioning of the immune system is also a key promoter of emotional wellness and mental health, helping to beat back stress, depression, and anxiety. I've always said publicly that I wanted my Boddentown East people or the Eastern District people to benefit from 1 more hour sleep, because they had to get up so early in the morning. And I always thought that it would improve their productivity at work and improve safety on the road as a driver. What I didn't expect is getting more sleep would come from a virus. I say to you, use it wisely. Scripture reading is from Isaiah 33:2. Lord, be gracious to us. We long for you. Be our strength every morning, our salvation in time of distress. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading of this holy word. Shout outs today to the community soup kitchen at John Gray Memorial Church in West Bay. Mondays and Thursdays, 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. Call 547-4209. This has been sponsored by Raul and Kathy Nicholson Co. Please wear a mask if you come to the Community Soup Kitchen. I want to thank them for this great community work. Also want to thank Arbutus Restaurant and staff. They prepared over 150 meals and donated to the HSA staff yesterday. As a small business, we thank you for having such a big heart. I want to give a shout out to Carrie Ann Robinson of the EMS team. Happy birthday to you. Ben also turned 18 today. Happy birthday to you, Ben, or TP. Also want to thank Lowell Hines. Thank you for your shout out to all of the panel and the medical staff. And also want to say thank you to one of my own people, Natalie. Happy birthday to you. Global reports have shown the elderly are among the highest of risks of complications and death from contracting the COVID-19 disease. This is largely due to the age and probability of older persons having underlying illness. We have been practicing social distancing for some 10 weeks now, and while we feel this is good strategy to stop the virus spreading within our community and subsequently to our elderly, the separation can cause older folks to feel isolated and lonely. Today, I want to give you a few things that you can put in place to reach out to and possibly even help a senior tremendously. The most obvious thing is to stay at home, as this lessens the chance of you contracting the virus and passing it on. Do your best to stay in contact with the elderly. Some are in the nursing homes and we are currently unable to visit them there, but you can call and read to them. Keep them up to date on what's happening locally regarding the crisis and all the gossip. Check in on their needs, buy their groceries and deliver them to their doorsteps. This keeps them out of harm's way and allows a form of interaction between family members. I just want to remind you to ensure the groceries are sanitized before dropping them off. This one you can do today. When you cook for yourself, set some food aside. Freeze it and deliver it to them for reheating later. This ensures they will have a hot meal in only minutes. If you have an extra handheld device, like a smartphone or tablet that you're using, give it to a senior. Teach them how to use a video chat so they can see your faces, which I'm sure will give them a thrill. These smartphones can also be used to connect to the elderly, to their doctors through telemedicine, so they don't miss out on doctor's appointments. Most importantly, we have to keep their days busy. You can gift them with books, craft supplies, a deck of cards or puzzles. And when you do to stop by to deliver any of these things, you can take some time to sit and talk with them from outside a door or window. Sharing with them might help you learn something you previously didn't know about them. By employing these helpful tips, we can ensure our loved ones are safe while feeling loved and cared for during this health crisis. Of course, there are several resources available to assist the elderly if needed. If someone you know needs assistance, call the Older Persons Hotline, 1-800-534-2222 for free and confidential advice. You can also connect to the Needs Assessment Unit at nau.gov.ky. The Family Resource Center can also be contacted at dcfs.gov.ky/FRC. And of course, we ask that you support Meals on Wheels Cayman through donations, as well as seek their help in feeding the elderly. You can get them at mealsonwheels.ky. I'd like to give a special thanks to the Red Cross volunteers who have been helping at the HSA drive-through tents and with the on-site mobile screenings. There are many logistics that take place from checking people in, verifying IDs, labeling the specimen tubes, and handing out patient portal information. These volunteers come out every morning, Monday to Friday before 7 a.m., all while wearing PPE, including isolation gowns, which makes working outside even hotter. Their volunteer efforts towards our country's screening of COVID-19 is commendable, and on behalf of the Ministry of Health, I thank you personally. I'm also pleased to advise today that our previous request to the Cuban government for assistance with medical personnel during COVID-19 pandemic has received favorable consideration. We have received confirmation that the Cuban government is willing to provide the requested medical personnel. I therefore wish to express sincere thanks to the Cuban government on behalf of the Cayman Islands government broadly and the Ministry of Health specifically for its kind consideration in this regard. Our health team will further advise with regards to our request in light of our current COVID-19 circumstance. Although we are currently in a favorable position, we are thankful of this alternative opportunity should it become necessary. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister of Health.
Could I just come back very briefly? I've
Yes,
just been asked to point out on evacuation flights, there is the Cayman Airways flight to Miami on Friday already announced, but there are two more, so on the 12th of June and the 26th of June, but these are only outbound flights. They're not bringing people back in.
So this Friday.
Thank you very much. Before we move to the media and questions for the panel, we go back to Dr. Lee.
Just some more information for you about personal protective equipment. Dawn Cummings, who's the Chief Financial Officer of the HSA, has advised that we have between 9 and 12 weeks supply, which is a very good stock of PPE on hand. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Dawn very much for her quiet and steadfast support throughout this crisis. I've also done some calculations, and on a Monday to Friday basis, we've been regularly, for the last 2 weeks, we've had over an average of over 500 results reported per day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. We're going to go now to Dr. Samuel Williams Rodriguez. He has an answer to a question asked earlier by Compass reporter Reshma.
I think you've just
I think Dr. Lee just answered part of the question about the PPEs.
Okay.
I just want to add that apart from the PPEs, we also have quite a substantial amount of testing material. We have 149,000 test kits for PCR and over 200,000 swabs. So we are in a very good position for that as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Williams Rodriguez. We go first to Ralph from the Caymanian Times for questions for the panel. Ralph, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the panel. I hope you had a restful weekend. I have two questions. My first one is for the Premier, a very short one. Can funerals be held on Sunday going forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The second one, I'll direct it to the governor, but other members of the panel want to chime in at some point. Your Excellency, you advised on Friday that the next election date was for May 2021. In light of the pandemic and the impact on the economy and the upcoming hurricane season, do you have any thoughts on rescheduling that date for the next election?
No, there is no need at this point to do that, and we're simply doing sensible planning and preparation, and the Elections Office, who have a very good reputation for this work, are just doing everything that we would normally do in this situation, and it's normal practice to set the date a year out. So at this point, we are fixed that date as the date of the next election.
Okay. One final question for you, sir. You mentioned the dates for the next Cayman Airways flights were the 29th, the 12th, and the 19th. Could you confirm whether it's the 5th or the 12th of June, as I actually made a reservation for the 5th?
Well, the dates I've been given, there is a flight this Friday, which I think had already been announced. I've been given 2 new dates for today, which were the 12th of June and the 26th of June. So I think you probably need to contact Cayman Airways, Ralph, to sort that out.
Thank you very much. That's it for me, Donna.
Okay, thank you very much, Ralph. We go now to Wendy from CNS.
Sorry, Donna, I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going last. Mostly questions for the Governor, first of all. Governor, can you clarify what you just said about the British Airways flight? Because we've had a few people say that they called regarding the potential of a June BA flight this over the weekend, and they were told that there is no plans for another BA flight next month.
No, that's not correct. We are working on organising another BA flight, and we certainly have enough people who have made contact with us saying that they want that. What we're not able to announce at the moment is the exact date, but we are focused on organising a flight, and I hope it will be in the first half of the month, and we'll make an announcement just as soon as we can.
Okay, just to clarify, should they still be calling the hotline?
Yes.
Okay, is that they should call? Okay,
yeah.
That was more of a housekeeping. Also, can you explain to us what the quarantine situation and the security measures regarding the quarantine of the removal of Elmer Wright at the weekend? In other words, if our officers took him or British officers took him, who was quarantined when and how was everybody protected and kept safe from either foreign nationals like coming in to collect him or our prisoner officers coming back?
Yeah, so as for the BA crew, which had to stay overnight, they were fully quarantined and remained in quarantine as for anybody who would be in a government facility, and the same arrangements applied to the UK prison officers who came in to escort the prisoner back. So everything was done fully in line with our procedures to ensure we take absolutely no risks on this. So I can give you that assurance.
Okay, great. I was just wanting to make sure. And also, in the same vein, again, given the difficulties of the prison and the overcrowding and the recent tests there, we've just had an illegal landing over the weekend of a Jamaican canoe and guns and bullets, and that individual has been arrested and been before the courts, charged and put before the courts. So will that person be quarantined completely separately, or will he be in general prison population?
Yes, again, proper procedures and processes are in place, and the police and the prison are taking every sensible precaution required to assume that any individual could have COVID-19 and to do everything necessary to protect everybody who comes into contact. So we're obviously very aware of all of those risks.
So he will be isolated from other inmates because he's already been before the court and taken back to the jail?
That's my understanding, yes.
Oh, okay, fine, thank you. That's all my questions for the Governor. My next questions are for the Premier. Mr. Premier, can you clarify the position for people who made an application for Caymanian status prior to the COVID lockdown and the closure of the border, who are now facing a new, unexpected bill for their PR fees? And for some people, that is quite a lot of money. Will there be any provision, as you'd said before, for work permit bosses in that kind of position where they wouldn't have to necessarily be punished for delays and having to pay extra money? Will the same thing apply to people who've been here now for a long time if they've reached the point of status where their work permit, sorry, not their work permit, their PR fees are due, but they're only due because their Caymanian status application was not finished before COVID?
Well, in terms of principle, I think the answer is yes, there would be consideration given. In terms of the detail, I'm afraid I don't have that level of detail to mind. I'm not sure whether the amendment to the immigration law that we made some months ago dealt with that, but I will check There are a number of other issues that are arising now that this has dragged on longer than I think any of us really thought, that may have to be revisited with respect to the immigration law and regulations as well. So I'm going to have a discussion of this tomorrow in caucus.
Okay, great. When do you perceive, or do you have any inclination when these types of boards may start resuming their work again, even if it's done via Zoom?
I think they should be up and or should be able to be up and running now. I know the Central Planning Authority is meeting by Zoom, so there's really no reason in principle why they can't operate. And I think we're going to be in this situation for quite some time, so it's time to start to face those realities and deal with them practically and pragmatically.
Okay, finally, my final question, which you're going to hate. Nevertheless, I'm asking it because it's become very, very popular. Are there any plans for ministers and MLAs to take a pay cut given the current circumstances?
No, ma'am, there aren't.
Would you care to say why you feel that there's no reason for or any justification for the reduction, given the reduction of the workload for some MLAs and ministers?
But I don't know about MLAs, some MLAs, but I can tell you my team is working harder now than they ever worked before. I'm not sure why ministers and MLAs should be singled out for cuts. Well, is there any reason why?
No, it's happened in other countries with governments suggesting that, given the hard times and how well paid they are, that it just seems like the decent thing to do.
You think that MLAs and ministers are particularly well paid in Cayman?
Yeah.
Well, just let me say this. My experience has been in the aftermath of Hurricane Ivan, the Great Recession, if I may call it that, of 2008. Those sorts of measures were employed not just with respect to cutting the representative salaries, most of whom were having to work much harder than before, given the circumstances. And I wasn't in government at the time, I was in the opposition, so I'm not trying to make a case for what I did. And they cut civil servant salaries as well. It had disastrous consequences. I've never quite understood why making the public service or public servants poorer is somehow going to benefit the overall economy. All you do is destroy morale, and you reduce the amount of money that those significant numbers of people, I'm not talking about MLAs and ministers, I'm talking about the broader public service. The amount of money
my question is confined to MLAs and ministers.
Right, but, well, okay, if you said...
I don't believe the civil service should take a pay cut.
Right, well, I was going to say, if it is going to have any real practical consequence, you would have to cut the whole civil service, because that's a huge bill. You got 19 MLAs in the grand scheme of an overall budget of more than $850 million. That is a minuscule sum. So that's why I asked you at the start, on what basis are you saying that this should happen?
Well, I think it's a popular question that has arisen time and time again. And it is, we have seen it happen in other countries. It's a gesture as much as anything, because obviously as you're very different from civil servants. You're politicians, it's a different arena. You know it is. So I just wondered whether you would like to explain why you've not considered it, and tell the people why not, and then they can judge for themselves.
What I know is that I'm no different. If you cut me, I bleed. If I get COVID, I get sick. I eat, I pay rent or a mortgage like everybody else. And that's so for every single minister or MLA. They all have families, they all have obligations, they all have commitments. I still struggle to understand why you suggest that somehow they or we are different. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this idea that ministers and MLAs are so well paid comes from. I can tell you this: almost 20 years since I left my firm, I earn less as premier now than I did then, in actual dollars, not counting the inflation and whatever else has occurred, cost of living increases since then. So for people who believe that somehow this is a cushy job, you got another thing coming. And it is 7 days a week.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Appreciate it. That's all my questions, Donna. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. We now go to Shanda Gallego from Radio Cayman. Shanda, please go ahead.
Hi, Donna. Thank you so much. Good afternoon to each and every one of you. My question is first to Premier regarding money transfer services. Now, is there a way to get money to Cuba? We have a couple questions being asked regarding that.
Well, that was a problem even before COVID. And I'm only working from experience. I've had a number of trips to Cuba, about 4 or 5. And I know there was only one, and that was fairly recent, one money transfer operation that sent money to Cuba in the first place. And then that was hugely complicated. I think it was only to Havana. So I don't really have the details around that, but there weren't a whole lot of money transfer services being provided to Cuba in any event.
Okay, all right, because we're getting some feedback that people have relatives and it's becoming challenging, so they wanted to know if there's a way to be able to get that money to Cuba to help out with that. So I will await your update on that.
Well, actually, I think you need to go to the money transfer services themselves, because there's certainly no government restriction on that happening. It may, if there is a problem, it's probably the practical one of how you get anything to Cuba now, because Cayman Airways is not flying there.
Right. Okay. All right, so I'll go quickly to my next one. This is for the purpose of clarification, or I guess reiteration. Are we still implementing the alphabet system, i.e. shopping days, under this moderate suppression level?
Yes, very much so. In fact, it's been extended to exercise on the beach as well.
Thank you for that. And in terms of security, I'm not sure if you're able to mention this, or Governor Roper, some people have brought to our attention that there has been more of a relaxed or reduced police presence at supermarkets. Now, do we know if the increased presence or security has been officially dialed back recently?
I think that it is the case that the police presence has reduced at supermarkets, because I think more of the onus has been placed on the supermarkets to organise the security there. But clearly, it's something which is kept under very close review.
Okay, thank you, Governor Roper. And I guess with that, have we also relaxed the measure of checking IDs at the supermarkets?
That I don't have the answer to, but we can certainly check. But I would be very surprised if that was the case.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Shanda. I have 2 questions for the panel. The first one, it relates to flights to Cuba. Any talks there?
Nothing that can be announced at the moment, no.
Okay, okay. The other question, I think probably Dr. Lee or Dr. Williams can address this one. When will non-emergency or surgeries begin again? You know, surgeries that obviously are needed, but not emergencies. Okay, Dr. Lee is coming to answer that one.
Currently, all of the healthcare providers are allowed to see patients who are urgent. So that's been loosely defined as having something that requires investigation because it's painful, or definitive management because it's painful, or it could be a psychological issue, or also something that is time sensitive. So in many ways, a lot of things that would normally crop up as time goes on can be managed currently by your doctor under that guidance, which has been issued by the Health Practice Commission. I think it's anticipated that with the next level change, that the ability for healthcare providers to move on to a much wider range of services, more or less back to normal, is likely, and Health Practice Commission will advertise that in due course.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Lee. We do have another question from April at Radio Cayman. April, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Donna. This question actually came from a listener of ours who, and I thought you touched on this before, Your Excellency, so forgive me if you have in recent times, but the question relates to private aircraft and whether non-Caymanians and non-residents are being allowed to come into the country. And if yes, are they subject to the same quarantine at the facility, with the government facility, as we would with any other aircraft?
I think the answer to that is yes. Everybody is subject to the same criteria in terms of quarantine, and there have been a number of private aircraft coming in and out, but the decisions on those are not really my office. That is the Deputy Premier and his office that's been taking the decisions on each of those.
Thank you very much. The other question that I had, I'm not sure if it's for Dr. Williams-Rodriguez or Dr. Lee. It's related to whether there's been any I always say this word incorrectly, but posthumous COVID-19 testing on any of the folks who've passed away during the time that this has been occurring.
Okay.
I don't know if that's even possible, by the way, gentlemen.
April, would you like to repeat that question for me, please, just so that we're clear on what you're asking?
Sure.
Dr. Williams,
I think. A listener.
I think Dr. Williams can address it for you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We had a person who passed away during this period, and at the time of the death, the person was told that they didn't have COVID-19, but they hadn't been tested, but there was some contact tracing after death. So they wondered two things. One, whether there was any ability to check after the fact about whether the person had actually had it, and why they would be tested or why there would be contact tracing after death in this fashion.
Yes, thanks for the question. As far as we're aware that none of the patients who have passed away, with the exception of the first patient, have been positive for COVID-19. There have been testing of this patient while they're inpatient, also after they pass away, and none of them have tested positive for COVID-19. If individuals were contact tracing, may have been related to something else, not specific for the person that have passed away.
Thank you very much, Dr. Williams-Rodriguez. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much, April. I do have one more question. A lot of people are asking about passport renewals, that sort of stuff, everything to do with passports. A lot of people's passports are expiring. Some are actually waiting for passports that were in the system before COVID-19. Do we have any information on when that service might be available again?
I don't, but I can check on that.
Thank you very much, Premier McLaughlin. Okay, we finally go to Reshma from the Cayman Compass. Reshma, please go ahead.
Thank you, Donna. My first question goes to the Premier. On Friday, you announced the process for returning work permit holders and that businesses or the employers would be responsible for the quarantine payments. Now, can you say at what point people returning will move from government facilities to private home isolations, not just work permit holders, but people in general, at what phase? And also, what about the dependents of these individuals? Would the employer be responsible for the dependents as well? Or would that be a separate pay that the work permit holders would have to take care of?
There are no plans currently for persons who are returning to be allowed to go into private isolation. We can't monitor it effectively. And yes, anyone you bring with you, you'll be expected to pay for.
That's the employer.
Well, employer or employee, certainly not the government.
Okay. Now, this may have been asked previously, so I apologize if I'm repeating it. And I know the trolls are going to come after me for it, but here I go. The hurricane season is approaching. Would you, can you say when businesses that do hurricane shutters installation be allowed to do business? Is that part of the next phase, or can they do that now? Because I've got a couple of questions that have come in from homeowners who want to know, how do they prepare for the hurricane season without these businesses being allowed to operate?
Well, I would think that the majority of those would be in the current in the current category that is being dealt with now, because there must be Home Depots, construction kind of operations, I would think, if you're preparing for hurricanes. So all things going well, they should all be released next week. I think, I think, no, it's okay? Okay, fine. I was just talking with Danny across the way, but it's fine.
Okay. So I want to talk a little about unemployment and the numbers, if any, are available. The ESO commenced its spring labor survey back in March. Can you say, as Human Resource Minister, if that data collection has been done and if the information is available, or when will it be available?
I don't have that information at hand.
Okay, can you get that at probably the next press briefing for us?
I'll do my best.
Okay. Well, I guess you wouldn't have the tally of the unemployed Caymanians readily available either. So can we get that at the next briefing as well?
No, that's one slight detail I don't have in my head.
Oh, you do?
I don't.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I did. Okay, so my next question goes to the governor. Now, Governor, you gave some good news in terms of the flights to India, and I've gotten a couple of questions during the briefing from the Nepalese community asking if they would be accommodated on those flights as well to be able to go home.
We'll certainly look into that. I don't have an answer today, but I will take that away, and we will look into that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Can you give us an update on the recovery fund and how that has been going? Have you had any additional corporate sponsors pay into the fund?
I mean, I think that's a question for the private sector fund itself. So I'm not sure it's really appropriate for me to answer on their behalf. But I am aware they're making good progress, and I'm sure they'll be putting something out quite soon.
Okay, and my final question on the announcement that was made by your office on Friday. The election date has been given. Ralph touched on it earlier. Can you say what sort of discussions, if any, that you've had with the elections office in terms of how they're going to progress the voter registration efforts in the current situation with the shelter-in-place regulations and the health protocols that we have in place?
Yes, I have discussed all of that, and at the moment we don't have any huge concerns about that. We do have the time needed to do what is required, and the timetable was set out sort of quite clearly in the attachment to that press release. So we're obviously very mindful of the COVID-19 dimension to all of this, but I believe that we can have confidence in our elections office to manage everything as they have done very well on previous occasions.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just a quick question, Donna. Is Danny in the room?
She sure is. Please go ahead with the question, Reshma.
Thank you. This was a question that I had asked on Friday, and she was not there to ask. I just wanted to get an update on the process for the facilities, the quarantine facilities. What further discussions have they had with local hotels in terms of sourcing spacing for quarantine?
Thank you, Reshma. Again, as you know, we've already got, we're expanding one isolation facility as we speak. We've taken 2 offline. However, we are still in conversation of speaking to some, but I don't want to say nicer hotels, that's very rude, but so more upmarket 5-star hotels to see if they'd come on board as well. Obviously, at cost to the person coming into the facility. That's still very much work in progress. So unfortunately, I haven't got those details for you right now, but I will definitely, we were definitely working on that behind the scenes, and we'll hopefully be able to make some more announcements of those quite soon.
Okay, great. Thank you. And as I have you on the mic, one final question. We saw recently the first named storm, Arthur, swirling around. What's the plan at hazard management in terms of managing the COVID-19 crisis and us heading into the hurricane season? Do you have the resources? What's the game plan going to look like when you have 2 emergencies side by side? And included in that, evacuation flights should a hurricane, knock on wood, head our way?
Thank you, Reshma. Again, we've already been dealing with 2 emergencies at different times this year already. I mean, if you think the fire at the same time of COVID, we had to obviously resource the department for that, albeit the National Emergency Operations Centre wasn't open at that time. So yeah, we are doing a lot of work behind the scenes. We had our hurricane exercise last week. We are doing an exercise today with SEDEMA, and we're also doing another exercise on Wednesday with the Foreign Commonwealth Office and also the other overseas territories. There's a lot of conversation going on with the overseas territories as well. But again, at Hazard Management and the whole NEOC, the National Emergency Operations Centre, we're doing a lot of work on increasing shelter capacity, ensuring that we have PPE for shelters, making sure that all our NEOC is ready for both those emergencies at once. Also looking in for supply chains, making sure that we do have enough food at the shelters as well as coming in on the island if by chance there was an issue with the ports being closed in Miami, for example, if a storm was heading there as well. So there's a lot of, again, work going on with communications as well. How does that contingency plan look? You know, we've become so reliant on Zoom. And of course, if we do have a hurricane early this year, we may also have issues with communication lines. So we're trying to make sure that everything we do, both at the exercise last week, but also moving forward, is, you know, really thinking about all those contingency plans, about staffing, pretty much everything that's any normal hurricane plus COVID response will have to take in mind. So there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, but we're also looking to identify new shelters, for example, because obviously with social isolation in shelters, we're trying our best to incorporate new public buildings and potentially private buildings. So working with various different stakeholders to make sure we are doing our very, very best to, you know, to cater for everyone who needs it. And again, supplies, working with some of the with the DIY shops to make sure that you know, the supplies are there for anyone who might need them. And again, it all comes down to education. A lot of it right now is, you know, knowing a plan as a family, making sure you do have the supplies. And our website, again, shameless plug, is www.caymanprepared.ky. And there's a lot of information there for everyone in Cayman to look at and to make sure their plans are ready to go for the hurricane season ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you, Reshma.
Okay, Reshma, thank you very much. Any final words from the panel? No final words? Okay, well, we'd like to thank you, the public, for joining us for today's press briefing. Also, of course, to our esteemed panelists. A reminder to go online to gov.ky/coronavirus for information that is needed during this time. We invite you to join us back here again on Wednesday. Until then, be safe. And for those watching via television, please stay tuned. We have our regional and world coronavirus statistics.